Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto was neglected for his siblings, and whenever he is with his siblings, it is like invisible. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Hey look, it's Menma-sama. Mito-sama is with him too. Hello there Mito-sama. Menma-sama. Have a nice day Mito-sama. You too Menma-sama. At times, I wonder if I'm invisible. Just like the stars on the morning sky, outshined by the sun and invisible. Well obviously I am nothing in the presence of Mito-sama or Menma-sama. Ever since I remember, it is always Mito and Menma. The village heroes, the sweet little angels adored by everyone in the village. Menma Namikaze, clan heir to Namikaze and the one who saved the village the day we were born and also my elder brother, by approximately half an hour. A born hero, they call him. I personally think that the credit should go to the third Hokage who gave up his life for sealing the Kyuubi and my brother. All this hero worship only spoils him. But hey, who wants to listen to the anonymous blonde kid who is not as important as the hero? Then there is Mito Uzumaki, clan heir to Uzumaki and the wielder of the legendary chakra chains. Also my older sister by 15 minutes. People just adore her, probably because she and mom are the only two who could handle big brother if he ever loses control. She is like their safety belt. Consequently she too lets the fame get to her head. I can't blame them. I can imagine myself becoming just like them if I got the same attention or maybe not. It's all human psychology I guess. Now let me introduce myself, Naruto. Just Naruto. I really don't want to be part of a clan that would be led by spoiled brats. I and my siblings are currently 5 years old and yeah, I know, I am acting a little too mature for a 5-year-old, but hey, somebody's have to the smart one around here. I have to be mature to take care of myself. What with my parents acting like they don't have a third child, I am surprised I still have a room in the house yet. I even know how to cook. Nothing phenomenal, just plain toast and eggs and sometimes rice and steamed vegetables. Hunger can do wonders to food preferences. But it's still a great deal for a 5-year-old, I guess. Mom always forgets to make food for me. They ignore me, my siblings bully me, and I don't have any friends cause I am not that important. I am not a hero like Menma and Mito, I am not one of the children of prophecy, I don't have a dying bloodline or a demonic powerhouse in my gut. I am just not important enough for them. Before our 4th birthday, Menma was the only special one. Mito didn't have the bloodline, and mom paid almost the same attention to both of us, and Mito and I had each other whenever mom and dad paid too much attention to Menma and we felt ignored, so it was not that bad. I remember Mito always saying that she wanted to be special like Menma. And on our 4th birthday she got what she wanted. Mito had a habit of pulling pranks on Menma because she was the jealous type. And she always dragged me into it as well. But I sure as hell had no part in that prank. That day during the party when as usual Menma was getting the most attention, Mito played a prank on him. A harmless prank involving some glue and feathers. But things got quickly out of control when the Kyuubi chakra decided to come out and play. That's the day when Mito got her bloodline and the first time Menma lost control. Mom and dad were both shocked and overjoyed because their daughter got the Uzumaki bloodline. Did you know who got punished for the prank that night? Why, me of course. Because, little princess had become too special to be punished. That day onwards things between Mito and I got from good to bad and bad to worse. She blames me for all her pranks because that's all I am to them, their punching bag and scapegoat. Lucky me, and our mother and father, or I don't even know what to say. Mother has to teach her little princess all her clan techniques since she is going to be her heir and father had his heir to teach as well. I have lost all respect I have for them in a single year. I do not hate them, not yet anyway. Right now, my greatest dream is to be free. Free from this farce of a family and be someone I want to be. Naruto walked through the streets with his hands in his pockets. He was looking for something to eat. He wanted a slight change from the daily rice and vegetables. He had swiped a small amount of money from his father's drawer. It's not his fault that they are so careless despite being a Hokage and an S-rank ninja. As he walked around looking for a candy shop or a snack bar or something, he saw some kids surrounding something and kicking at it. The ever-curious Naruto went towards the commotion despite knowing that he should probably stay away for his own sake. There, a few kids were kicking around a poor baby kid. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the poor thing gets mercilessly attacked. Hey. What are you doing? He yelled out. The kid stopped and looked back at him. You want to join, kid? One of the elder boys asked him. Join? Join what is this some kind of game? Attacking harmless animals just because you could? How could you all be so heartless? Naruto asked. Heartless? PFFT we're just teaching this monster a lesson. One kid scoffed at him. Monster? Are you stupid? The only thing that little kid could do is maybe yip at you and what? Annihilate you with his power of puppy eyes. Naruto growled. Stay out of this, kid. One kid warned and stepped closer to him. Yeah, go away, fox lover. Naruto scoffed at the idiots. He had no time for idiots like them. He moved forward decisively and pushed aside one of the kids and took the little fox into his arm and cradled it softly. What do you think you're doing? One kid grabbed Naruto by his collar and tried to threaten him. The others quickly surrounded him. Let me go or else. Naruto warned. Or else what? You gonna go crying to your mommy? One kid taunted. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Actually, that's exactly what I am going to do. One scratch on me and my mom's gonna have all your heads. She's pretty vicious like that. Like your mommy could do anything to us. Well, she does work at the torture and interrogation department. Naruto said, grinning. Hearing that, the boy slowly loosened his hold. Naruto shrugged them off and walked away. The little fox whimpered in his arm, "Shhh, it's alright. I'll take care of you." He cooed at the poor creature. Children could be so cruel. Heading back home, Naruto silently went inside his room. He opened his rather pitiful first aid box and began treating the creature to the best of his abilities. Thank you. Oh, no need to thank. Naruto froze mid-speech. Did you just talk? Naruto brought the kid to eye level, but the only reply he got was a lick to the face and a yip. I am sure I just heard. He watched as the little fox tilted its head. I must be imagining things, he mumbled and got back to wrapping up the little fox. I look like a mummy. Well, that's the best I can, Naruto snapped, looking at the mummified fox. Wait, just you talked. Again. And don't act all innocent. The fox once again just yipped at him. Naruto pouted and crossed his arm. Okay. Stop pouting. The fox said. Aha. You do talk. Well, obviously. The fox rolled its eyes. The name's Najin. And who are you, my handsome knight? Naruto. He said with a raised eyebrow. Well, Naruto, you just got yourself a familiar. Happy. Of course you are, it's not every day you get an awesome familiar like myself. Oh, and I'm a girl, by the way, if you didn't guess already. Naruto looked at the fox kid with wide eyes. You're going to be my familiar. Yes, Naru-chan. We will be inseparable from now on. The fox kid said dramatically. Naruto chuckled. So are you a summon? A summon? Nope. I'm an entirely different kind. You see, I'm a shapeshifter. I was taking a stroll as a fox when those kids found me. And man. Those kids are vicious. I have seen giant snakes friendlier than them. Would you let them hurt you like that? You should have shifted into a more powerful form and fought them off. I can't. If a shifter without a master shifts in front of a human, it is like accepting them as his or her master. And I would be damned if I let one of those idiots become my master. I see. Naruto nodded. And then right before his eyes, Najin shifted into a golden serpent. There, now the contract is complete, you are officially my master. Aren't you a bit too eager to make me your master? Well, you are kind, smart and cute. I would be damned if I let someone like you go. This way I can also avoid situations like earlier. From now on, no more fear of humans seeing me sift. The golden serpent once again shifted into a fluffy fox and yawned. I'm tired, gonna take a nap. With that, she jumped into his lumpy bed and curled up until she got comfortable and slept. I can't believe I got a familiar just like that. Naruto mumbled in disbelief before he shrugged. Might as well take a nap with it. He curled up around Najin and slept. Hey, Najin, wake up. 5 more minutes. Naruto rolled his eyes at Najin. Then he noticed that the bandages from earlier were all discarded. He was intrigued when he saw that all the wounds had healed. Naruto heaved a sigh and went downstairs for something to eat, since he had slept for longer than he meant. His family had probably gone to sleep by now. As he approached downstairs, he noticed that the lights were still on in the kitchen. He hesitated for a moment, but then his hunger got the best of him and he had to think about Najin too. So despite his better judgment, he went inside the kitchen. He saw his two siblings eating cake. Naruto tilted his head. Was there some kind of function here? Why was there cake? Menma was the first one who saw him. His eyes widened and then narrowed. What do you want, loser? Mito looked back at him, startled. Naruto rolled his eyes at his siblings and went towards the fridge. He got 2 apples out and thought about it for a minute. Can Najin eat apples? Then he shrugged and turned around to leave, completely ignoring his siblings. Surprisingly, they didn't try to stop him or taunt him further. In hindsight, he should have expected something to be wrong. Naruto. Naruto was startled out of bed by the demonic yell and furious knocking at his door. Startled and frightened, Naruto was unsure on whether or not to open the door. Open this door right this instant. Kushina sounded like the devil reincarnated as she yelled. In the blink of an eye, Najin, who was asleep, had turned into a wolf the size of a large horse and growling at the door, standing protectively in front of Naruto. Naru, who the hell is that? My mom. Oh. Najin was surprised and she changed into a much smaller puppy dog and looked at the door, behind which Kushina was still screaming at Naruto to open the door. But now Minato had joined, though much more calmly yet angrily, asking him to open the door. Does your mom always try to kill you if you wake up late or something? No, I don't know. I think I should open the door, though I am scared out of my wits. As he moved to open the door, Najin looked at him worried. "You should hide, you know. And don't be seen." Naruto quickly grabbed Najin and placed her inside the closet and locked the door. Telling Najin to be quiet, he steeled his breath and opened his door. As soon the lock was opened, Kushina slammed it open and Naruto was thrown backward and fell on his butt. Kushina stormed into the room and grabbed Naruto by his hair and slapped him hard. Little Naruto sat on the floor, eyes wide and cradling his rapidly swelling cheek and blood flowing out of his split lips. Pain hit him hard and he yelped, tears flowing endlessly. "How dare you? I made that cake especially for your brother and sister." Naruto couldn't speak, not through the pain, and even if he could, Kushina wasn't willing to listen. Minato watched his wife trample his youngest child with a disappointed look. Disappointed at him, at Naruto, not at his wife who was mercilessly scolding a bleeding child, their child, without even listening to what he has to say. Naruto could guess what had happened, it happened all the time. His siblings blamed him for something, probably the cake he saw them eating yesterday, and his parents believed them without a care. But his mother had never been so cruel, and his father had never been so uncaring. Inside the closet, Najin was too stunned to speak. "That bitch is his mother. For this, you are grounded for a month, and you are not coming out of this room unless I say so." Kushina growled out and left, leaving an emotionally broken child on the floor. "I am so disappointed in you, Naruto. You wasted all of your mother's effort because of what, your jealousy? How pathetic. If you continue this, I will revoke you from the Namikaze clan. Such shameful behavior is not acceptable for any member of my clan." With that, his father too left. He wasn't alone yet. They were still here. His two precious siblings. Both laughing at him. Mocking him. They had been doing that from the beginning, yet his parents found that as acceptable. They kept taunting him. Telling him how once they became clan heads, they would kick him out of the entire family. Family? What family? He thought. Since when was I ever part of this family to be kicked out? Once his siblings too left, Naruto curled in on himself. He didn't hear Najin telling him to open the closet door, nor did he see anything. Everything was silent and muddled as he passed out. Naruto stood in the darkness. His family stood against him. Wearing scowls and hurling insults at him. Is this how a family is supposed to be? Or is it just for me? Naruto felt like he was drowning. He opened his eyes to stare at his bland white ceiling. It was then he registered the arms wound around his stomach. The distinctly feminine arms holding him in a tight embrace. His back pressed into the soft body of the woman behind him and Naruto blinked in shock. A strand of long red hair, obviously belonging to his companion, fell over his shoulder. Naruto blinked owlishly at the red hair. "Mom? What's she doing here?" Taking a hold of the strand gently, he marveled at how soft it was. Not knowing what to do, he played with it absent-mindedly. Naru. That voice. Najin. Naruto gasped as he jumped out of bed and turned around to face the figure that he had assumed was his mother. His heart ached a little when he saw that it was not his mother. The figure had red hair like his mother's and had warm green eyes that gazed at him with relief. The shape of the face was different too. Whereas his mother had a rounded face, this woman had a heart-shaped face. She looked as old as his mother did. Najin sat up, rubbing her eyes and then looking at Naruto in relief. "You're awake. I was so worried, Naru." She jumped out of the bed and glomped the still stunned Naruto. "Najin, you're human now?" Of course, it made sense seeing as she was a shapeshifter. Surely she had just shape-shifted into a human. Najin didn't bother acknowledging his words, instead began shaking as she held him. Now Naruto was worried. "Hey Najin. Hey, are you alright? Why are you shaking?" When he heard the first sob, Naruto was stunned. "Najin?" He tentatively asked when the shapeshifter continued to sob into the crook of his neck. He awkwardly patted her back. "I am so sorry, Naru," she sobbed out. For what? He had no idea what was going on right now. I had seen you so many times outside and I always knew you were supposed to be my summoner, but I was so scared that I left you alone here with these." She just kept on sobbing. "What are you saying? Hey, Najin, please stop crying. Just tell me what's going on. Please." Najin pulled back and she looked down ashamed. She should have been there for him since the beginning. Yet she abandoned him. She wondered if he'd ever forgiven her. Naruto sighed. "Najin, stop being overdramatic and tell me the matter. Now. My mother always used to say that each shifter had a specific partner. It is decided when we're born. It is bond that is made in the soul itself. And our entire soul sings when we meet our destined partner. And it was our duty as a shifter to protect our partners and always be there for them. I knew the moment I first saw you that you were my destined partner, and that was 2 years ago." Naruto was startled. 2 years ago? Najin nodded ashamed. "I saw you at the park, standing alone. You were so lonely even back then. Why didn't you come to me back then?" Naruto asked. I didn't want a master. I wanted to be free. And the thought of being bound to someone scared me so much that I ran away. I came to see you from time to time and you were always alone. Getting bullied by your siblings, neglected by your parents and relatives, I saw it, but I still didn't come to see you. I thought that you would be fine, you had a roof over your head and a place to call home, so it was fine. Or at least I thought it was. And I had my freedom. Naruto sagged back into his bed. She knew. All this time she knew, but can he really blame her? My own parents chose my siblings over me, so can I blame her for choosing her freedom over me? I can't, she deserves her freedom. But she was supposed to be there for me. Well, she was not the only one that was supposed to be there for me. My parents, my godparents, my siblings, and now her, all of them gave up on me. Am I a lost cause? So why did you change your mind? Because I rescued you? Najin seemed to shrink into herself. I shifters have to bond with a partner before they reach 20 or they lose their powers. I turned 20 today. Naruto visibly flinched. So that's why, huh? He swallowed thickly. Oh, happy birthday then. Was all he could say. Najin looked at him. So what were you planning on doing after this? Naruto asked, barely acknowledging the cracking of his voice. I am going to leave, Najin said. Really, he was not surprised, no one seemed to want to be with him anyway. Well, go, goodbye then. Have fun. And you're coming with me. What? Najin stood up, a determined frown on her face. You are coming with me. Naruto looked at her stunned. Najin continued with a huff, you think I am going to just leave you here after this? I knew those people neglected you, but it is another matter entirely to abuse you. I am not leaving you here to become anyone's punching bag. Oh no, mister, you are coming with me to some other village, we're going to travel around, and I am going to teach everything I know and make sure you have an awesome childhood minus the first 5 years. Are you doing this because you pity me? Naruto deadpanned. Najin looked at him surprised, then sneered at him, pity? I pity no one. You are my partner and I'll be damned if I leave you again just because I am a selfish bitch. Man. Talk about bipolar. She was just crying and apologizing a moment ago. Naruto nodded hesitantly at her. Najin looks a little crazed at the moment. Oh, and Naruto. Yes, Naruto looked at her hesitantly. Just because I used the B word, don't even think about using it. Are we clear? Naruto nodded frantically. Goddamn, she was scary. The comfortable silence descended on them. Naruto silently pondering everything he had learned, and Najin felt like a huge weight was off her chest. Najin, Naruto called after some time, you're forgiven. With that, he lied down and tried to get some more sleep. It was night after all. Najin looked at him for a moment before a smile spread on her lips. Thank you, Naru. When Naruto woke up next morning, he was alone in the room. Najin? He called out. But no one answered and he suddenly became worried. Did she leave? Just then there was a knock on his door. Naruto jumped a little startled, then he hesitantly moved to open the door. When the door opened, his mother was standing there. A frown set on her stern face. He flinched involuntarily when she stepped into the room. Kushina looked at him disappointed. And he felt tired because he knew that he was going to get a scolding. He'll figure out what it was for after he gets scolded. What do you want, Naruto? Naruto blinked. That was unexpected. What? He asked softly. Not wanting to anger Kushina further. Kushina sat down on his bed with a sigh and Naruto tried to keep away from her reach. He was scared of her. You are always making trouble for everyone. You hate your siblings and hurt them every chance you get and you have done your best at being an embarrassment. God, I am even ashamed to say that you're related to me. Not like you say it anyway. I was never your family. So I ask you again, Naruto. What do you want? Why are you being such a nuisance? Kushina glared at him expecting an answer. What was he supposed to say? The truth. Yeah, that would go so well. When he stayed silent, Kushina growled and Naruto involuntarily jumped back from her. Look, you're only 5 now. So there is still time for improvement in your character. So you need to stop acting like a brat. Or we will be forced to take drastic measures. Do you understand, Naruto? Naruto nodded with a blank face. She only wanted compliance from him, she didn't care about what he had to say. But still, what are these drastic measures? He had to know. What more could they do? Kushina's eyes hardened, you will be disowned. Naruto looked at her not surprised, and his blank expression surprised even Kushina. It was like he was expecting it and somehow that disturbed her. Naruto narrowed his eyes at her. Really? That's the so-called drastic measure? It works out in his favor. So they'll disown me if I don't improve, huh? Good. Naruto. Kushina began, as your mother, it is my duty to make sure you grow up with decent character. As my mother? Well, as my mother you had many other duties as well. Naruto nodded. But Kushina stood up with a sigh, I hope you'd improve your character from now on. She turned to move but stopped when Naruto spoke. No, what did you say? She turned around to face him, hoping she had heard wrong. I said no. He softly said. You brat, didn't you hear what I just said? Kushina growled. I did. And I thought about it. I am not going to change anything about myself just for you people, and there is no need for an ultimatum, just disown me. That would be the best for everyone involved. Kushina stepped back shocked and then her shock turned to anger. After all we have done for you, she began. And what have you done for me? He interrupted her. We are your family, Naruto. We raised you, we gave you shelter, food, and locked me out of the house in a thunderstorm, ignored me when I asked for anything, forgot to make food for me, and I had to cook them myself, let the other kids bully me because you were too busy listening to my siblings, threatened me at every turn about disowning me. Do you want a list of what all you did for me? Naruto deadpanned. He wasn't angry, just numb. Kushina stared at him silently, had they really done all that? It was because you were a nuisance. She finally concluded when she could not refute his statements. Exactly. I was a nuisance and I am going to always be a nuisance. So disown me. Naruto said. Kushina was speechless. If you're done. Could you leave? And if you have anything to speak about the disowning process, I'll be here. We were your family, how could you act like this to us? Like we mean nothing to you? She finally stuttered out. Naruto tilted his head to the right slightly, he genuinely looked confused, isn't this how a family is supposed to act? This is how you all acted to me. I learned from you. Kushina spluttered. Naruto looked expectantly at her, and she stumbled out of the room confused and thinking about the way she had treated Naruto. Downstairs Minato and her family waited for her at the dining table. Breakfast ready to be eaten and she for the first time she noted that she only cooks for 4. She always cooks for 4. As she sagged down on the chair next to Minato, Naruto's words kept ringing in her head. Strong arms wrapped around him from behind and Naruto stiffened. It's alright Naru. I am here for you. A distinctly male voice with a warm undertone came from the unknown man hugging him. Naruto kept his heart from racing as the man buried his head into the crook of his neck from behind. And Najin. Naruto squeaked, hoping that this wasn't someone else. The affirmative hum had Naruto sighing in relief. You're a guy. Najin scoffed, really? I didn't notice, he said sarcastically. Why are you a guy? Naruto asked. I am trying to comfort you, idiot. Just enjoy the hug. Najin said annoyed. Naruto smiled and relaxed into the hug. It was nice to have someone hold him once in a while. I have food, Najin offers showing him a bag of food. Naruto nods, where did you get it from? He slowly looks through the delicious smelling bag of food. There was enough food for 3 people in the bag, it was too much. But Naruto had no idea how much Najin ate, so maybe it was just enough. I bought it from the Kais, Najin, still a male sat down, and both of them began eating. During the time they ate, Naruto looked over Najin's latest looks. She looked like a man a little older than Minato and was about 6 feet tall, with a lean but muscular build. Her hair was short and jet black, with few strands falling onto her forehead. She also had olive green eyes and pale skin. All in all Najin looked like a good-looking man. Where did you get the money from? Naruto asked when he thought about Najin buying the food. She gave a half-hearted shrug, stole it. Naruto narrowed his eyes and stopped eating. Please tell me you stole it from some rich snob and not someone who needs it to feed them. Najin looked taken aback by the question and the attitude. But Naruto kept up his glare and she fidgeted and thought back to whom she had stolen the money from. She vaguely remembered that it was some woman from the jeweler's shop. It was some woman from the jeweler's shop, she fidgeted, and in the form she was in, it looked kind of awkward. I don't know her or anything, but if she had money to be at the jeweler's, then it wouldn't be harmful to lose some. Naruto looked at her for some time and then sighed and continued eating. Stealing is alright, I have done it too. But only steal from those who have more than enough and even then take only what you need. Najin looked at him with narrowed eyes and she, in this form, looked dangerous with that particular look. Where did you steal from? Naruto shrugged uncomfortably not because of the fact that he had stolen things, but because the image of the man with narrowed eyes made him uncomfortable. I steal from Minato all the time. I mainly buy candy with it. Are you uncomfortable talking about it? Najin asks eyeing Naruto. It's not that, can you change into some other form? Najin looks confused and then nods before changing into her female form and continue eating. So you don't like Kase? Naruto looks up with confusion. Who? Kase, the form that I was in earlier. Naruto nods slowly. Najin shrugs. Don't worry, most people find him intimidating at times other than the girls who dig tall, dark and handsome. They finish eating and Naruto looks at Najin curiously, so you can change into anything at will. It doesn't work like that. She sighs, I can change into any animal form at will, and all I need is to get one good look at them before changing. It's different for human forms. If we wish to take the form of a human or any other intelligent species, we need permission from them. Permission? Najin nods, for example, without having your permission I won't ever be able to change into your form. But once the permission is given we can change into those forms at will, but maintaining them requires quite a bit more energy than for animal forms. We also get every attribute, ability and weakness along with the form and can change the age of the form at will. Naruto nods and Najin continues, my mom was the partner of Kase's father. She says with a reminiscent smile, and Yuki-san here, she gestures her current form, was Kase's mother. Kaido-san, my mom's partner and Kase's dad, died along with my mom in a fire when I was only 3. I don't remember much about the both of them. Yuki-san raised me after that. She was 60 at the time she took me in, and Kei's was 37. I spent 8 years of my life with them before Yuki-san died of heart failure. She gave me her form before dying. She was a healer, so I know a lot about healing and medicines. Her gaze turned solemn. Kei's and me set out after that. It was just the two of us and he was the closest thing I ever had to a father and brother. Naruto doesn't want to pry, but he wonders what happened to Najin's biological father. Seeing that she was lost in memory lane, he kept quiet and let her speak. Hayes was a great hunter and he was also a martial artist. He knew how to fight really well and tried teaching me a lot. She snickers when she remembered Kei's frustration at her repeated failure at fighting skills. She was always in the form of an 11-year-old Yuki, and Kei's had said that it would help her make friends and have a childhood. We never stayed at a place for too long because we both wanted to see the world. He died when I was 15. Najin was silent after that and Naruto didn't question anything. They spent the entire morning just sitting around. Najin managed to get him some books from the library and Naruto was happily reading them. By noon Naruto became too restless to just sit doing nothing. Let's go somewhere out of the village. Najin perks up and Naruto frowns. No, the park or a training ground. Najin deflates a little but she's out of the bed and at the door before him. The rest of the Namikaze family is not in the house and Naruto and Najin calmly walk out without any interruptions. They reach the park in little time. So what do you want to do? Najin asks. She looks like a white and brown beagle puppy and is looking at him with large puppy eyes. Fetch? He asks unsure. Najin snorts, did you just assume that I want to play fetch just because I look like a puppy? Naruto looks just as unsure and uncomfortable because he never had to play with someone before and has no idea what to play. Ever since his fight with Menma at the park when they were 3 or something, kids have stayed away from him thanks to Menma who does whatever it takes to boost his bad kid reputation. Najin stares at him for some time and bobs her head slowly. Sewer, let's play, and Naruto has the distinct feeling that she was grinning. Let's start, and she's off with her tiny but deceptively fast puppy legs, and it's take a moment for Naruto to realize that she has his book firmly between her teeth. Naruto's eyes widened and he began chasing after her with a whine. After some time, Naruto dropped onto the ground completely exhausted. It was evening now, hard to believe that they ran around the whole park all this time. Najin sat next to him and dropped the book safely on the ground. At first, they had just run around the whole playground, but then Najin spotted the small pond near the park. After that, it turned into splashing around in the shallow water. Najin had enough sense to hide the book somewhere before they started the water war, so it was safe. That was fun, she says huffing, and Naruto can't help but laugh out loud. He was tired, wet and dirty, but yeah, that was fun. In the end, it was time to go home, and Naruto was pleased enough that even Kushina's glares at the state of his attire didn't diminish his mood. All in all, it was the most fun Naruto ever remembered having. He was tired as he dropped onto the bed that night and he hears Najin mumble, "Tomorrow I'll teach you how to swim." She doesn't see the wide-eyed look that Naruto gives her, but she does hear him mumble thanks before turning the lights off. For him, it was the first time that someone was teaching him something not out of necessity alone. But even then he hasn't forgotten that the bond between him and Najin is just a result of her guilt for not reaching out to him and a necessity for her to keep her powers. He may have forgiven her for that, but he won't forget. Keep your hands like this, then aim and shoot. The words were accented by a loud bang sound. The center of the target had a smoking hole. You need a steady hand if you want to learn anything useful from me. A butterfly knife was twirled between slim fingers. There were weapons assembled on the table, most of them he didn't even recognize. This is a handgun. The hands were holding them in a steady strong grip, much faster than kunai, but also very loud unless you use a silencer. Poisons, a wide variety of them, colorless, odorless and untraceable. The hands were back dipping a senbon in a clear liquid. They never detect the poison until it's too late. She was chuckling. The hands were on his face, grabbing and pulling him close to her face, and he was eye to eye with her. Black, they were black eyes, and she says with a smirk, "You want me to teach you, kid?" Naruto sat up in the bed. The series of visuals that he had seen became hard to remember, and all he could remember were the eyes so black that they seemed to suck in the light around them. He shook his head. That was a weird dream. Najin was asleep next to him in the bed, curled up as a fox. He slowly stood up and walked to the door. "Where are you going?" "Water," he says softly without turning to look at Najin, who had one eye open. Najin hummed, "Be careful," and went back to sleep. Naruto thought how odd it was for someone to be so on edge when they are among family, in their home. Home where everyone was supposed to feel safe, at least that's what the books say. After going to the kitchen to drink water, he moved towards the room next to his. The room had a balcony and no one ever used it, so it was just left there as a guest room of sorts. Naruto liked visiting the room at night and watching the stars from the balcony. It was safe since there were about 100 seals guarding the entire compound. He opened the door slowly, the moonlight filtering in through the open balcony doors, and there stood Menma. His back facing Naruto drenched in the moonlight and muscles tense like a coiled serpent getting ready to strike. Naruto stood unmoving and silent for some time wondering what Menma was doing here at this time of the night. Usually, Menma would be fast asleep by now. What do you want? Menma rasps and Naruto think it's odd. Something's different. He's not surprised that Menma doesn't turn to face him because he knows that his brother is hiding something. What are you doing here? Naruto asks calmly. Watching the moon, Menma says finally after some thinking and Naruto's eyes narrow. Something's very different and it's in the tone of his voice, a false politeness and love. But then I can keep you company. Menma panics and Naruto can tell that whatever is happening, Menma wants to be alone. Oh no, you should go to sleep. You know to get enough rest for training tomorrow. Menma's voice is soft, kind and so cloyingly sweet. Naruto chuckles, you should get some sleep too Nai-san. We can train together tomorrow Naruto offers. Of course I am not really tired now so why don't you go rest, okay, Itato. We can train together tomorrow. Naruto's eyes widen unseen by Menma when it clicks finally. Whoever this is, it's definitely not Menma. Naruto and Menma never address each other with anything other than their names, no nicknames or Nai-san or Itato. And Menma's the one who always flaunts the fact that Naruto never gets to train with him. Naruto is wary and he takes a small silent step back towards the door. Alright, Nai-san. I'll go to bed now. Have fun moon watching. For a moment he wonders if this is some prank by Menma because the compound is the safest in the entire village. The house of two seal masters and someone manages to break in. Not impossible but very difficult. And this guy whoever he is an amateur. Why disguise himself as Menma when he could have easily knocked Naruto out or if he didn't want to draw any attention to his presence, he simply could have used some jutsu to hide. Why the hell did he disguise as Menma when he didn't even have any idea of how Menma acted? Maybe all of this is an elaborate prank so that when Naruto freaks out and tell Minato and Kushina he would get scolded. But better safe than sorry and something in his gut kept telling him that this was no prank. So he kept up the calm attitude and decided on a strategic retreat so that he could inform either Minato or Kushina or even trigger one of the safety seals. But he wasn't as discreet as he thought he was because the next moment Naruto's back smashed into the adjacent wall and there was an enraged Menma pinning him with one hand holding his throat and the other hand covering his mouth. Naruto's throat closes up when he actually gets a look at Menma's face. Red eyes Kyuubi. Oh shit. Naruto felt panic building with his chest. His brother with the red eyes of Kyuubi was staring down at him malevolently. His heartbeat sped up rapidly and he felt like he couldn't breathe. He had seen the action of the Kyuubi chakra only once and that was enough to traumatize the child's mind. Now being face to face with that monster who had taken over his brother was terrifying. Kyuubi stared at the kid and became frustrated. The kid was going to have a panic attack, damn it. Kid. Hey kid. Kyuubi called out hoping to distract the kid but to still keep his voice low. Kid, calm down I won't do anything just fucking calm down already. Kyuubi was panicking. This couldn't be happening. If the kid had a panic attack it might trigger one of the safety seals and that would attract that fucking Hokage and his goddamn wife. Just when Kyuubi thought that getting out of here was the best option the kid somehow managed to calm down. Naruto took a deep breath and tried to bring his heartbeat back to normal levels. Kyuubi rolled his eyes when he saw that the kid was now looking at him curiously. This was why he didn't have kids, they were more trouble than they were worth. You okay brat? Naruto looked at the supposedly murderous monster dubiously and nodded slowly. But that's good now if I let go, promise me you won't scream. Naruto blinked at the tone Kyuubi was using. Then nodded again. Okay. Good. But if you scream kid, I am going to gut you, got it? This time Naruto nodded more rapidly. Kyuubi slowly released Naruto and removed the hand that was covering Naruto's mouth. Naruto stared at the Kyuubi for some time before slowly stepping back from him. The both of them stared at each other for some time. Are you the Kyuubi? Naruto asked slowly. Kyuubi took a deep breath, yeah I am. Oh Naruto said dumbfounded. Finally his brain caught up to him that he was actually having a somewhat conversation with the Kyuubi. Naruto shakily sat down on the floor. Kyuubi wisely stood back from the kid. So you're not going to have a panic attack, are you? Kyuubi asked after some time. Naruto looked up from the floor, no why? How are you in control? Kyuubi stayed silent for some time, then crouched down in front of Naruto and Naruto leaned away from Kyuubi. Hey kid, why don't we make a deal? A deal? Naruto stuttered. Yeah, a deal. You tell no one about what happened here and I'll let you out of here, alive and unharmed. How about it? Kyuubi asked smirking. Naruto's first thought was to accept but then he began thinking, no. What? Kid, you want me to kill you? Kyuubi asked darkly. No, I'll go out and tell my parents what happened Naruto said with bravery that he didn't feel. It was just a hunch and if he was wrong he was dead. That is if I let you go out of here alive, brat. Kyuubi's hand once again gripped his throat and Naruto clamped down on the urge to beg. The Kyuubi tightened his grip slightly and Naruto winced, but he persevered. As Kyuubi's grip tightened, Naruto was sure that his hunch was wrong. He was a second away from begging when Kyuubi actually let go. Naruto blinked, maybe his hunch was right after all. Kyuubi began pacing around the room angrily. "Brad, I am not in the mood to snap your neck. So tell you what, accept my deal and I'll teach you a new jutsu or something." Naruto ducked his head and a smile lit up when he confirmed his hunch. "It's not that he doesn't want to kill me, he can't." "No," Kyuubi growled, "you're pushing it, Brad." Naruto looked at Kyuubi, still intimidated by the biju. "You can't kill me, can you?" Kyuubi didn't react to what the kid said. Naruto started to get nervous. "What gave you such a stupid idea?" Kyuubi asks with narrowed eyes. Naruto took a deep breath. "Look, I'll accept your deal." Kyuubi raises an eyebrow at that and Naruto continues, "I'll tell you what I want in return later, but promise me you won't trick me or lie to me or kill me." They stared at each other, Naruto getting more and more nervous. Kyuubi thought about what might happen, then came to a conclusion. In the end, Kyuubi scoffed, "You're an idiot, Brad, but fine. You promise me to never, I mean never ever betray me, and I'll promise to never trick you." Naruto stared at Kyuubi suspiciously. Naruto nodded in agreement. Kyuubi shook his head, no, wordless agreement wouldn't do. You must say it word by word and swear in the name of Inari-sama. I'll do the same, and then we have a deal. Naruto stared at Kyuubi confused for a moment. Okay. I promise in the name of Inari-sama that I would never betray you, Kyuubi. Good, I Kyuubi no Kitsune promise you in the name of Inari-sama that I will never trick or lie to or kill you, Naruto. Naruto felt strange suddenly. Like ropes had been bound around his body. The feeling was gone as soon as it came and he ignored it. Naruto nodded to Kyuubi, still confused about the need for this. "Brad, I should warn you, I am a Kitsune." Naruto tilted his head to the side curiously. "I already knew that." Kyuubi smirks, "But I bet you didn't know all that it implies." This time Naruto was a little nervous. "What are you talking about?" Kyuubi chuckles, "You see, we Kitsune are tricksters, we lie, we prank, and we generally enjoy watching you humans run around like headless chicken, but there is one thing, a Kitsune can never break a promise once given." Naruto nods, "So that means you can't break your promise to me, that's a relief." "Heh, that's not all, Brad." Kyuubi smirks mischievously, "You can never break a promise given to a Kitsune either." Naruto's eyes widen, "You mean?" Kyuubi nods, "That's right. You try and break your promise to me and then I wouldn't even have to do anything. You'll be dead. But you don't have to worry about that since you weren't going to betray me anyway, were you?" Naruto shakes his head. This was not a bad deal seeing as Kyuubi can't harm him either. Then he narrows his eyes at Kyuubi, "So tell me what exactly is going on." Kyuubi sighed, "That's a very vague question, Brad, but I'll tell you the gist of it. Your parents altered the seal so that your brother can use my chakra more easily. A very stupid move if you ask me, but that worked out for me in the end. The alteration allowed me to take control when your brother fell asleep." Naruto nodded, "But you're still trapped in the seal, right?" "Unfortunately," Kyuubi sighs, "I can only take control when your brother is unaware. And if Minato and Kushina find out what happened tonight, they'll tighten the seal back up," Naruto muses. Kyuubi nods stiffly. "Why didn't you just kill me or knock me out?" Naruto asks curiously. This is the first time I am in control of this body and it's a bit awkward to use. If I tried to knock you out you might end up dead. And if I died?" Naruto asks. "You don't know." Kyuubi asks with a raised eyebrow, "There are hundreds of seals placed around this damn compound. If I kill you, it triggers a seal for an immediate lockdown. If I use too much of my chakra, it triggers a suppressing seal. If I try to leave, another lockdown seal activates. I am effectively trapped, at least until I figure out a way to bypass these seals or create a counter seal." Naruto looks around frowning, "How do you know all that?" Obviously the Kyuubi didn't have much interaction with the outside world or he would have acted more convincingly as Menma. But then how did he know about the seals when even Naruto didn't? Kyuubi huffs, "I am a Biju brat, I can see what normal humans can't. That means that I can see the seal matrix on the walls. I have lived for millennia, I know almost all of the ninja techniques that exist and that certainly includes sealing techniques." "I see. So what happens when you find a way out?" "I'd get out of here," Kyuubi says. "Taking Menma's body with you?" Naruto says, "You should know that would mean that an army of ninja would be after you. After all, he is the son of a Hokage and a Jinchuriki." Kyuubi tilts his head to the side, You don't seem too worried about your brother, brat." Naruto shrugs, "He's got enough people that worry for him." Kyuubi smirks, "Is that some sibling jealousy I see?" Menma, the jailer of the Kyuubi, the powerhouse and Poryu, brother to the hero. Kyuubi chuckles at Naruto's frown, "That's it, isn't it? You're jealous of your brother." Naruto turns away from the Kyuubi intent on walking out. "Stop, brat, I was just joking. I don't care for what goes on between you humans. But for what you said earlier, I don't intend on taking your brother with me if I have a choice." Naruto looks at Kyuubi curiously, "What's your plan?" Kyuubi thinks about it, it's not like the kid can betray me, so it should be fine to tell him. There's a seal that can remove me from your brother. Naruto's eyes widen, that would attract too much attention. Is that what you plan on, to let the entire village know and trample it for a second time? Naruto was starting to regret his deal. If Kyuubi really was planning on attacking the village, he won't be able to do anything that came within not betraying Kyuubi. Kyuubi rolls his eyes, relax brat. I don't plan on attacking your village. I just want to get out of here without any trouble. All I want is my freedom. You don't want revenge then? Naruto asks dubiously. No, Kyuubi sighs, look, attacking your village like I did was a very bad thing to do. Naruto scoffs at that, that's an understatement. But it wasn't my fault, Kyuubi says glaring. Naruto raises an eyebrow in disbelief, then whose fault was it? Kyuubi glares at Naruto, well you try being trapped within human after human for centuries. Treated like a beast with no mind, controlled and manipulated like a toy. Naruto was slightly taken aback by the venom in Kyuubi's voice. Seeing the fear on Naruto's face, Kyuubi calms down a little, look I'll tell you everything that happened on that day later, if I feel like it. For now, you wanted to know my plan. Naruto nods accepting the change in topic. The seal I mention only removes my soul from your brother, not my chakra. So no, it won't attract any attention. Naruto looks at Kyuubi curiously, so you're going to leave your chakra with Menma? Kyuubi smiles grimly, yeah I prefer it that way. Why? It's your chakra. You were made out of it, Naruto says. I know kid, Kyuubi says softly, but you don't know how that blasted chakra feels. It takes over your mind and everything you see is through this film of rage and hatred. Kyuubi's eyes are distant as he speaks, when I was sealed in your brother that was the first time I could think properly. Think clearly without that constant rage, and it felt like fresh air after walking through smoke. The other times I was sealed, my soul and chakra were never separated and I was left to stew in my rage. But this time, your father used a dead demon-consuming seal, and it separated me from my chakra, so that your brother can use my chakra without my interference. The first year it felt like a part of me was ripped out of me, it was constant agony. I was addicted to that power I had. I wanted it back at any cost. But as time passed I overcame that I could think clearly for the first time since I was created, without that stifling hatred clouding me. It was magnificent and I never want to lose myself to become a beast ever again. I want this freedom, this free will. Your brother can have the chakra and do whatever he wants with it. I don't need it. Naruto stares at Kyuubi amazed. Kyuubi comes back from his musings and pokes Naruto, what are you staring at? Nothing, Naruto squeaks, so what happens after you remove your soul? Oh, I would need a temporary body, a clone would do. Then after I get out of this village I know some people who could help me get a new body, Kyuubi shrugs, but the thing is you see, that seal I talked about, I can't do it by myself. Someone else needs to do it. Naruto's eyes widen when he sees Kyuubi looking at him, what? Don't look at me, I don't know the first thing about seals. Kyuubi smirks, I'll teach you then. I can't. You can. No, yes, I can't because I'll be gone. Kyuubi stares at Naruto confused, gone. Where will you be going? Naruto looks down, I am going to leave the village with Najin. Kyuubi blinks confused, you're going on a trip. Who's Najin, a relative? No. I plan on going away from the village permanently. Najin's my familiar. Naruto says. Kyuubi's jaw drops, you have a familiar. And what, you're running away with it? Why? So Naruto explains his life to Kyuubi. He trusts Kyuubi more than even Najin right now because he did have Kyuubi's word on not tricking him. After Naruto is done explaining, Kyuubi huffs, and here I thought you were a pampered little brat look I know you want to get out of here and all but think about it, are you sure that's the right thing to do? Don't forget that you're the son of a Hokage, even if you're treated like shit it puts a target on your head. And I am pretty sure that your parents will use every last resource to find you, even if it's just for the sake of their reputation. As awesome as you think your familiar is, I promise you she will not be able to handle it. Naruto listens to everything and sighs, you're right. It's not that I haven't thought about all this, but Najin is pretty adamant. And you? What do you want? Kyuubi asks. Naruto bites his lips, I do want to leave. I want to leave this house, this village I want freedom too. But I don't want to run away, I don't want to be hunted or chased, I don't want to escape like a coward. I want to leave and I want to do it without having to hide. Kyuubi nods, and how do you plan on doing it? I plan to be disowned. Kyuubi laughs, that sounds like a good idea. Kid, do you really believe that they are going to do it just because you ask them to? Naruto frowns. Kyuubi was right. Minato and Kushina did have a reputation to mind about. What should I do then? Kyuubi takes some time to think. 2 years. We need 2 years. Naruto looks at Kyuubi confused, for what? In 2 years, I'll teach all I know about sealing and some other chakra techniques that you're going to need. Once you mastered the seals you will release me and we'll get out of here, together. Naruto frowns, but we were talking about not running away. Who said anything about running away? You said your parents threatened you with disownment if you didn't shape up. Well, tell me kid, aren't you tired of being blamed for things that you didn't do? Kyuubi asks smirking. Naruto nods. Well, then how about some revenge? In 2 years we'll make sure that they have no other option but to disown you. Naruto chuckles, but we also have to make sure that I don't get disowned before I am able to release you. Kyuubi smirks, yeah that too. It's planned then. Kyuubi nods. Suddenly Kyuubi's eyes widen. What's wrong? Naruto asks. Kushina is going to your brother's room to check on him. Kushina woke up sweating. She had a horrible dream. She had the urge to check on both her kids. Where are you going? Minato asked as she got out of bed. Just to get some water. Go back to sleep honey, Kushina said, not wanting to think about her dream. Minato nodded sleepily already slipping back into slumber. She went to Menma's room first since it was closest to their room. She found the door wide open. Her eyes widened, the remnants of her dream making her afraid. Menma and Mito's room had a locking seal so that Minato and Kushina could check on them without waking them up. She knew Menma always slept with his door locked. Despite telling herself that it was just a dream, she ran to Mito's room. Mito was sleeping soundly in her bed. Kushina sighed. What was I thinking? She's fine, it was just a dream. But then where did Menma go? She walked out of Mito's room and closed the door behind her. That's when she noticed the lights on in the kitchen. She entered the kitchen and let out a laugh at what she saw. Menma was sleeping on the kitchen table while gripping a glass of water. She shook her head and slowly took the glass out of his hand. Menma blinked open his eyes. Mom? What are you doing in my room? Kushina smirks, last time I checked, this was my kitchen. Menma looks around confused. Huh? I think came here for a drink and fell asleep on the kitchen table, Kushina chuckles. Menma looks down sheepishly. Kushina kisses his forehead, go sleep in your room young man. Menma nods, good night mom. As he went to his room, Kushina's eyes fell on Naruto's room on the next floor. She grips the table tightly as her dream flashes before her eyes. Menma knelt on the floor, covered in burning red chakra, eyes ruby red. Blood ran down his arms and the mutilated corpse of Mito at his feet. Behind Menma her third child stood smiling gleefully as his brother ripped apart his sister. In his hands there was a black chain, its ends were wound around Menma's neck like a leash. Naruto looked directly at her and said, this is all because of you. Kushina took a moment to calm down. She knew that dream meant nothing, but she also knew that the image would forever haunt her. It's been 2 years since Jiraiya has set foot in the village of Konoha. The last time he came here was to tell Minato about Orochimaru's moves, and after that, he had to go undercover to spy on his ex-teammate. He wondered what all had changed in his presence. He thought about his godchildren, who would be 7 in a few days. He hasn't seen them in 2 years. He had already met Minato outside the village and handed over the gathered information discreetly, away from the spying eyes and ears of Danzo and his cronies. It was only a matter of making a show of his arrival now. And feed the spies with something that their bosses can chew on happily. Sensei. Minato exclaimed as Jiraiya burst into his office with his usual dramatic flair. Minato looked surprised enough by Jiraiya's arrival that no one would have suspected the fact that they already met outside. When did you come back? Minato asked and activated the privacy seals knowing full well that those seals had been tampered with by Danzo. Everything they say inside the office would dutifully reach Danzo. Till this day Danzo hadn't figured out that his spying tactic was being used to manipulate him. Jiraiya's took on a serious tone, Orochimaru was planning to start a village. Minato acted suitably surprised, I see, what else did you find out? Jiraiya gave Minato a formal report that was 75% actual facts and 25% carefully calculated bullshit. Well, later they deactivated the privacy seal, signaling the end of the report. Jiraiya smirked, so how are my wonderful godchildren doing? Minato's frown was wearier and much more frustrated than his usual frown. Jiraiya knew about Minato's trouble with his youngest. Jiraiya also knew the hand that he himself had played in the isolation of Naruto Namikaze within his own family. Is it Naruto again? Jiraiya asked sympathetically. 2 years ago, he used to hear Minato complain daily about his younger son's diabolic pranks and behavior. He had hoped that the kid had changed during the years that he was away. Minato sighed. I don't know what to do about him, sensei. Is he still pulling pranks and causing general mayhem? Yes, in a way. Jiraiya frowned at the vagueness. Minato sighed again, but we never get any proof of him doing it. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow, then how do you know he's doing it? Minato looked wearily at his mentor, even the war didn't cause this much stress. Okizama. Both shinobi turned to face the secretary who entered the room, along with a fuming merchant covered in garbage. It's a complaint about Naruto-kun again, the old secretary said, hiding a smile. Minato gave Jiraiya a look that said, you watch this and you'll understand. Did he play a prank again? Minato asks as patiently as he could. That little brat. I know he did it. He somehow flooded my restaurant in sewer water and replaced all our food with garbage. Minato then remembered that the guy standing in front of him is the owner of one of the restaurants in Konoha. Are you sure he did it? Do you have any proof? Jiraiya stood by as a silent watcher in all this. The civilian looked beyond pissed, but he had no proof except that he knew it was the work of Naruto. Minato sighed, as you should know, there's nothing I can do without any proof. You should take some ninjas to interrogate the bastard. The guy screamed. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Look, I will talk to him, but since this is a civilian issue, I cannot involve any shinobi or interrogation unless the crime is very serious and harmful to the village. Jiraiya stood there amused, and that's when the little villain entered the scene. Okage-sama, Naruto-kun is here. The civilian fumed and Minato dragged Naruto in with a smile that was none too pleasant. All. The men saw the amused smile that the secretary gave the boy and the mischievous wink she got on return. Jiraiya took a good look at the kid. He looked a little taller than last time and a lot more healthier. There was also a certain twinkle in his eyes that wasn't there the last time Jiraiya had seen the boy. Before the civilian could start ranting, Minato began questioning his son. Did you have anything to do with the incident that took place in this gentleman's restaurant? The kid, instead of answer the question, frowned and said, you should know that this man is no gentleman. Yesterday he kicked out a poor kid because he didn't have enough money. The day before that he hit that poor woman who wanted to find some food for her sick kid. He also steal money from orphans. As you know, there is a price reduction in every civilian establishment in Konoha for any orphan below 10. He does all this and you call him a gentleman. Naruto shakes his head like he's the adult and they are the children that rolled around in the mud. Minato glares and makes a mental list to check out Naruto's accusations. Answer the question, Naruto. Naruto gives them a faux innocent look and says, and what happened in his restaurant, Hokage-sama? Jiraiya's amusement fled when he heard how the kid addressed his father. But Minato was looking like it was a completely normal occurrence and he shrugged it off. Maybe the kid calls him that at the office. The civilian finally exploded and began shouting at Naruto. Naruto looked scared and when the man advanced with the intent to harm the kid cried out fearfully in a way that was less actual fear and a lot of mocking. This only enraged the civilian further. Trying to attack a defenseless child in front of Hokage-sama, Naruto faked a gasp, that's a crime you know. Naruto smiled at the civilian condescendingly. There was a look in the kid's eyes that was taunting the man to do what he could. The civilian thankfully calmed down, knowing that this could only end up more trouble for him. Naruto. Both Naruto and the guy turned to face Minato, while Naruto just smirked. The restaurant owner looked nervous at having almost forgotten the Hokage's presence. Did you or did you not damage Mr. Uruha's restaurant? Naruto gave the best impression of a confused child, which they would have believed if not for the devious little glint in his eyes. He was taunting them and they all knew it. Why would I do that, Hokage-sama? Mr. Uruha has done nothing to me. It's him, I know it's him, Hokage-sama. The merchant was screaming again. Naruto gave an annoyed huff and covered his ears, shut up, you're being too loud. Some of us have sensitive ears, you know. And other than screaming that you know it's me, you have no proof. I was with Kushina-sama all day yesterday, Hokage-sama, she can attest to that. I was grounded for breaking her vase if you would remember, and today I was with Itachi-san, he can attest to that as well. There is no way I could have skipped on two highly trained shinobi to go and do this. Although the words would have been enough to prove the kid's innocence, they all knew from the smirk on the little bastard's face that he was just saying, I did it, but you have no proof, so joke's on you. Jiraiya was impressed. He has never met a single most devious and infuriating kid his entire life. In the end, Minato had to tell the civilian to leave and Naruto was let free, and if Jiraiya's assumption was right, this wasn't the first time this has happened. Once the man was gone, Minato turned to Naruto. Why did you do it, Naruto? Because I know you did. Naruto raises his eyebrow, your ability to immediately blame me for everything that goes wrong is very impressive. But let me tell you, whatever happened to that guy, he deserved it. Naruto, Minato gritted his teeth, you have to stop doing this. Stop doing what? As long as you don't have proof, I didn't do anything. Bring proof and I will admit that I did whatever you think I did. The kid was something else. But that Naruto left the Hokage and Jiraiya alone. Minato looked at Jiraiya with a look that meant, see what I meant. Jiraiya had to say that he did see what Minato meant. It's like he's trying to become some kind of vigilante. Jiraiya chuckled at Minato's frustrated growl. Isn't it better than the alternative? Jiraiya couldn't help but ask. Minato sighed, yeah, I suppose it is, but I can't condone this, Jiraiya. I am the Hokage after all. Jiraiya shook his head, kid, give Naruto a break. Minato turned to glare at Jiraiya, what's that supposed to mean? Ever since I told you about the prophecy, I know how you have been acting like the kid is a ticking time bomb. Just because it's in his destiny doesn't mean that your kid deserves to be treated like a criminal. Jiraiya, just saying, now let's go have some lunch. Jiraiya knew when to stop arguing. Prophecy? What prophecy? Naruto asked Najin curiously. Najin, who was currently a puppy, yipped, no idea. From what they said it sounded like you were going to become some criminal or something. Najin expressed her displeasure at the notion with a growl. Naruto petted the puppy slowly and calmed her down. Is that why they treat me like this? Because I am prophesied to become a criminal. I'll ask Caillou. He'll know something, but still this is Naruto trailed off. Najin licked his hand. Naru, stop worrying about what stupid people think. Naruto chuckled at that. But he did worry. Naruto entered the dining hall to find his family enjoying dinner with the Sannin. They all paused when they saw Naruto. Naruto, where have you been? I was playing. Naruto shrugged and went into the kitchen to get a glass of water. Jiraiya by now expected the behavior. From the descriptions provided by Minato and Kushina, Naruto these days didn't care to even talk to them. Aren't you joining us for dinner? Jiraiya was the one who asked that. Everyone else looked at him strangely. Jiraiya wondered what he said that was so strange. Naruto's lips twitched into an amused smile. Already had dinner, Jiraiya-sama. Thank you for asking. Jiraiya frowned. Kushina and Minato didn't seem to care though, but he asked curiously, from where? Naruto tilted his head to the side. Me and a friend went fishing. And we grilled the fish and ate it. It was fun. Menma sneered, as if you have friends, loser. You're probably lying to get us jealous. Oops, you caught me. So did it work? Naruto asked sarcastically. Naruto, Kushina said sternly, go to your room. Naruto, who was actually planning on going to his room, stopped and instead sat down in one of the chairs at the table. Naruto, listen to your mother, Minato said. Naruto looked up with wide eyes, but I suddenly feel hungry. Menma already said that I was lying. So that means I actually didn't eat anything. And that means I am hungry. So I need to eat. Which means I can't go to my room yet. Jiraiya smirked at the kid. Kushina growled angrily, there is no food for you. Naruto faked a gasp, but then I will be hungry. And there is food, see. He said looking at the table. Kushina's eyebrow twitched dangerously, I only made food for us. Now stop being a nuisance and go to your room. Naruto's eyes widened and filled with tears, and his lips wobbled into looking like a kicked puppy. What kind of mother are you? Not making food for her youngest kid and letting him go hungry. Kushina reared back as if struck and Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. Naruto, she was just joking, here have some food. Jiraiya said and served him. Kushina looked away. Minato was also looking at anywhere but Naruto, and that was probably why they didn't see the smirk that appeared on Naruto's face. Mito growled at her brother, Baka, why did you make mom sad? Naruto didn't even look at her as he said, she can make me go hungry, but I can't say a joke without touching her delicate ego. Loser you. Menma, remember our last birthday? They say some curses are occurring. That was a completely unrelated sentence, but Jiraiya recognized that it was a warning, and from the way both Mito and Menma paled and shut up quickly, it was a very effective warning as well. They both remembered the string of bad luck that occurred to the both of them during their last birthday. Naruto said it was because they broke the mirror, and that was bad luck. It was Naruto that got punished for it, though, as usual, they both knew their little brother was responsible for the chaos that followed, but there was no proof, as usual. Jiraiya wondered what happened that day. But that can wait. You shouldn't speak to your mother like that, Naruto. You know that what you said was wrong. Jiraiya said seriously. Naruto hummed as he ate, you know what they say, a clear conscience laughs at a false accusation. So if I was wrong, why isn't she laughing? Then suddenly Naruto turned thoughtful. I wonder how much I can eat. I am already full from the fish, but I think I can make some space. A devious expression appeared on Naruto's face. The Namikaze family barely had time to blink before all the food was gone. Jiraiya looked wide-eyed at Naruto, who was patting his full stomach with a contented sigh. You ate all of it? Naruto ducked his head, I was really hungry, you see. There was a loud grumbling from the rest of their stomachs. Naruto gave them a wide-eyed look, oops. If it's any consolation, Kushina-sama, your cooking was way better than the grilled fish, Naruto said apologetically. But you said you lied about the fish, Jiraiya accused. Naruto blinked slowly before huffing, no. I said I ate fish. Menma said I lied. So obviously he was right. Which means I probably didn't eat fish. Jiraiya waited a moment for that logic to sink in, but it didn't. What? Naruto rolled his eyes. I am going to sleep. Good night. Thanks for the food, Kushina-sama. Naruto left the hungry family alone. Mom? Menma asked pitifully. I think we have some apples in the refrigerator. Kushina said slowly. Just then they heard Naruto yell from his room, I ate that for breakfast. God damn it. Naruto chuckled as closed the door. What's up? Najin asked from where she was curled up on the bed. Naruto said what happened downstairs and Najin burst out laughing. Then she paused, but wait, how did you eat all that? I didn't. Naruto sent chakra to a storage seal on his wrist and neatly packed packets of food appeared on the bedside table. I don't even wanna know how you did that in the presence of 3S class shinobi without them knowing. The fox is rubbing off on you. Naruto chuckled at that, then he said, do you want any? No, Najin said, still full from the fish. Naruto nodded understanding, can you take this all to that lady we met yesterday, then? Najin was confused, which lady? Naruto sighed, remember that restaurant owner I pranked today? He was being very cruel to a lady who was looking for food for her kid. I remember. Najin growled at the memory of how the guy treated the woman. You did good with that bastard. Trash like you belongs in the sewers. Naruto remembered what the guy had said to that homeless kid and that woman. He deserved what he got. Give this to her then. Najin nodded. Give some to that kid too. Najin nodded, and as she left with the food, Naruto went to sleep. He would have to skip meeting with Kyuubi tonight. Jiraiya was here and it was too risky to meet up tonight. Naruto startled awake by the sound of someone frantically entering his room. His eyes flew open and his hands reached for the hidden knife, but before he could do that, someone tackled him. What the Najin? Naruto stopped struggling when he recognized the person on top of him as Najin in her female form. What are you doing, Najin? She didn't say anything. Naruto barely had time to note the frantic expression on her eyes before she was ripping his shirt off him. Najin. Stop it, what the hell are you doing? She didn't answer. After his shirt, his shorts went next until he was left naked. Najin. Naruto was a little confused and scared at what Najin was doing. He didn't want to attack since he knew this was Najin, and whatever she was doing wasn't with the thought of harming him in mind. Naruto, trust me please, she begged, and Naruto nodded and relaxed. Something had happened, otherwise Najin wouldn't be this spooked. Even though he felt incredibly awkward and slightly scared, he nodded. He trusted her. Najin's eyes still held that frantic panicked gaze as she said, I need you to use your chakra. To do what? Najin growled angrily and Naruto was taken aback by the aggression. Do anything, I don't care. Just use your chakra. She snapped. Naruto swallowed dryly and nodded. He summoned chakra to his palms like he used during the wall walking exercise. There was a slight blue translucent glow around Naruto's left palm. Najin's critical eyes roamed every inch of his body. She's searching for something, but what? Naruto looked down at himself but found nothing. Then he yelped as Najin suddenly flipped him over so that he was lying on his stomach. She acted ignorant to his protests and Naruto's fear ratcheted up. What's going on? Why is she doing this and why is she angry at me? What did I do? Naruto could feel the weight of Najin's gaze as she examined his back. What could she be looking for? She asked me to use chakra, so it can only be something chakra sensitive, a seal, maybe. Why would she be looking for a seal on me? Naruto frowned and thought, but only then did he note that Najin was quiet, too quiet. And Najin? He risked a glance behind only to see Najin standing stock still, her eyes wide and wild, and was that fear in her eyes? She's afraid. Of what? Najin, what is going on? Just tell me please, you're scaring me. That snapped her out of her daze. When her eyes met his, Naruto could see the fear in her eyes. She's afraid of me. Why? Najin opened her mouth to say something but was interrupted by a knock on the door. Both of their gaze snapped to the door. Naruto, open the door. I want to talk to you, Jiraiya said from the other side. Naruto turned back to tell Najin to hide, but she was already gone. A heavy weight settled at the bottom of Naruto's stomach. Naruto. Naruto quickly got dressed and opened the door for Jiraiya. We need to talk, Jiraiya said, and Naruto didn't pay much attention, his mind still churning over Najin's attitude and abrupt departure. She hadn't explained anything to him and the look on her face, that fear. Naruto felt dread creep upon him and his mind turned back to remind him of what Najin had overheard from the Hokage's office this morning. The prophecy in which Naruto played some kind of negative role. Did Najin finally decided that he was more trouble than he was worth? Did she leave him? He nodded absent-mindedly to Jiraiya as he spoke about his treatment of his family. He didn't bother to respond in any other way. Half an hour later Naruto decided that Jiraiya had nothing useful to say. He was still frustrated over what was going on with Najin, and Jiraiya's useless attempts at fixing his relationship with his family was annoying. Jiraiya-sama, are you done? I would like to go to sleep now. It was a busy day. Jiraiya sighed, did you even pay attention to anything I said? Honestly, Naruto looked Jiraiya in the eyes and said, no. Jiraiya looked frustrated at that. Now you know how I feel, Naruto thought. Naruto, this attitude will cost you big time one day. Cost me what? What do I have to lose? A loving family? Sorry, don't have one. Clan status? Nah, I am not heir to any clan. This house. Frankly, I prefer outdoors anyway. So tell me, Jiraiya-sama, what do I have to lose? Jiraiya looked annoyed. Naruto was very well aware that the rest of his family was listening in on the conversation. Kyuubi had taught him how to sense chakra last year. He was very good at it. And since none of the shinobi actually bothered to hide their chakra inside the house, it was very easy to find them. His siblings didn't even have any idea on how to hide their chakra. All in all, he knew that all of them, while out of his sight, were very well within hearing distance of the conversation taking place. They could disown you. Naruto rolled his eyes. Seriously, Jiraiya-sama, that particular threat is so overused that it's not even a threat anymore. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. Well, what about the Ninja Academy? Naruto frowned in confusion. What about it? Jiraiya's eyes. Naruto, your attitude is not fit for a loyal shinobi of the village, so if you continue like this, you will never become one. Naruto was still confused. I still don't get what you're saying. Jiraiya smirked. I am saying that your parents will not let you join the academy. As you know, in 2 days your 7th birthday is coming up. After that all of you will be joining the Ninja Academy. But if you continue like this then we will have no choice but to remove you from the academy. Menma and Mito snickered from their hiding spot. Naruto looked affronted. The admissions for the academy started a week ago. I don't remember signing up for it. Jiraiya frowned. Your parents did that for you and your siblings. Now if you don't. Naruto cut him off with an annoyed, excuse me Jiraiya-sama, Naruto sighed. Are you trying to say that they signed me up for the Ninja Academy without my knowledge, and now you are threatening to have me removed unless I shape up? Is that what is happening? Jiraiya was confused where this was going, but nodded. Naruto's glared angrily. Jiraiya smirked, there's no use glaring at me, Naruto. If you don't. Naruto threw his hands up saying, I am so done with all this. Whatever patience he had long since evaporated under the strain of Najin's weird behavior, followed by this kind of interrogation. He just couldn't take it anymore. Naruto. Naruto glared again, Jiraiya-sama, with all due respect, you all can go fuck yourselves. Naruto. Naruto turned to see a scandalized Kushina and Minato standing at the door. Behind their legs his 2 siblings hid gleefully waiting for Naruto to be punished. You listen here Kushina began. No, you listen to me for once, Naruto interrupted, have I ever told you that I want to join the academy? Naruto you can't become a ninja without joining the academy. God damn it I know that. What I mean is that I don't want to be a ninja, Naruto almost screamed. Silence. Naruto looked at his stunned family. He broke the silence. True I tried to get you to teach me when I was younger, but I gave up on that a long time ago. I no longer want to be a shinobi. Kushina sputtered, but you can't. Jiraiya interrupted, why don't you want to be a shinobi anymore? When Naruto opened his mouth to answer, Menma beat him to it. It's because he is a loser. Shinobi are heroes, and a loser like him can never become a hero. So he probably have up. Heroes? Naruto asked amused, that's what you think being a shinobi means? Being heroes. Menma was confused, of course when I become a shinobi I'll save people and become a hero. Just like I am hero of Konoha. Naruto chuckled and shook his head saying, hero. Look just because you are a loser doesn't mean you can mock us, Mito says, you're just jealous. Naruto cocked his head to the side curiously, do you truly believe that's what being a shinobi is about? Or do you have the whole thing confused with some superhero from manga, because as far as I know saving people is not actually part of the job description. Menma sneered, like you would know what it means to be a shinobi. Naruto sighed, being a shinobi, dear brother, means being a weapon for the village. Shinobi are nothing more than hired goons if you look at it. I mean you would save a client when your mission is a protection detail, and you will kill the same client if your mission is an assassination. In the end all that matters are your orders. Shinobi are heroes, I admit, but they are also murderers, thieves, liars, cheaters and whores. You can't become a shinobi and expect to gain only one aspect of the life, Naruto sneered. Being a shinobi means giving up your ideals for the ideals of your village. Sacrificing everything you are and expecting nothing back, sometimes you don't even get a place in the memorial stone, and you'll just be one of the many. Being a shinobi isn't what you see in your romantic versions, sister, it is blood, sweat and tears, and having to obey orders even when your heart and morals are against it. And frankly that's why I don't want to be a shinobi. I don't want to sacrifice my morals for the sake of anything. The adults in the room was stunned by the knowledge shown by the 6-year-old that had no ninja training at all. But they fight for the village. They do everything for the village. And it's not like you said. Mom and dad are shinobi, they're heroes and they're still happy. You're just being stupid. Mito said. Naruto scoffed, of course they do. They are heroes I don't disagree that, my point was that they aren't just heroes. There are a lot of responsibility and bloodshed that comes with being a shinobi, and I am just not interested in that. Jiraiya found his voice, Naruto you are the son of a cage it will look bad on your parents if you will not become a shinobi. 5 minutes ago you were threatening to pull me out of the academy, Naruto pointed out with a frown. Jiraiya sighed, why the hell do you have to be so difficult, kid? Because otherwise I won't be interesting enough. Jiraiya glared at the blonde, Naruto, you are part of the last few members' 2 clans, and you have a status to uphold. Naruto smiled, we can fix that. Fix that? Yeah just disown me. Jiraiya frowned, why are you so adamant about being disowned? Naruto didn't answer. You will join the academy Naruto, that's final. Minato said. Naruto glared, I'll embarrass you and your clans if you force me to attend. Naruto. Minato yelled. I am very serious. I don't want to be a shinobi and you can't force me to become one. Naruto both your parents have too many enemies and if they find out that you're the weak link they'll see this is why I don't want to be a shinobi. Tell me Hokage-sama how many assassination attempts do you have to worry about on a daily basis? This life of the shinobi, I don't want it. If I ever have kids I want them to be able to live their lives by their choices and not because of who I am or became. What I want is freedom and being a shinobi is just one big shackle. So no. Naruto, you are being unreasonable. And you are asking me to give up on my dreams. Your dreams? Well then, what are your dreams? Naruto stayed silent at that. Shouldn't have said that. If I say I have no dream, they are just going to force me what to say. I think I know. Naruto took a deep breath. I want to become a doctor. Silence. Again. You can become a medic nin. Jiraiya said. Ah no, that's not what I want. Then what the hell do you want, Naruto? Minato yelled. Naruto took a deep breath. Every hidden village has an abundance of doctors and medic nin that can help them at any time. But what about the non-shinobi villages? Most often they have no proper medical centers and have to rely on shinobi villages for help. They are very backward in the medical department and I want to help villages like that. You want to leave the village, Kushina said. Naruto nodded. So how did they react to that? Kyuubi asked while Naruto concentrated on completing the seal on the floor. They were all silent. I think they're thinking it through. Might decide that not having me in the village is the best option. Will they disown you? I already have the papers ready and signed. Managed to do it while Minato was busy. I just need them to declare it in front of enough witnesses and then I can move the papers to the council and that will be it. Kyuubi nodded. Do we have to stay? No. If all goes to plan, they will disown me during the birthday party and we can leave that night itself. It will be easy since it's the festival. I-san, the Hokage's secretary, will forward the papers the day after the birthday. We don't have to be here. Officially, I will be free. Kyuubi hummed and inspected the work. Good. It's perfect. Now do you remember the hand signs? Naruto nodded. Yeah. During the last 2 years Kyuubi had taught Naruto a lot of things. The main focus of course was Fuinjutsu, and with Kyuubi's help, Naruto excelled chakra control even as his reserves continued to grow. He has been using the seal for 1.5 years now and his chakra capacity is now low Kage level. Which is slightly greater than in Uzumaki adult's capacity. They took off the seal a week ago since the strain for using it was becoming too much. Kyuubi also taught Naruto the Kage Bunshin technique so that studying and pranks can be made easier. And he had very good chakra sensory skills for his age. Now Naruto was nearing seal master level and he was ready to perform the seal that can get Kyuubi's soul out of its cage. They are planning to do it on the day of the triplets' birthday. Naruto had learned to transfer seals to surfaces by just touching them. Although Naruto wanted to lower the contact time needed to place a seal, he would have to make do with his current level. Thank God, Jiraiya left. Or I would have to wait to talk to you, Naruto said. Kyuubi looked up curiously. Yeah, I sensed the pervert earlier. Thought that we will cancel tonight just to be on the safe side, but since he left it should be fine. What do you want to talk about? You have been worried about something since you came here. I was just waiting for you to talk. Naruto nodded and with a sigh he told Kyuubi about the overheard conversation on prophecy and Najin's weird behavior earlier. Kyuubi looked thoughtful for a moment before saying, take off your shirt, turn around and make a shadow clone. Naruto did as told. Kyuubi. The shadow clone appeared beside Kyuubi. I see, Kyuubi said pensively with a great amount of sadness and pity. Kyuubi was looking at something on Naruto's back intently and the shadow clone turned to look at what he was looking at. There was something on Naruto's back. It looked vaguely like the rough sketch or an incomplete picture. It was sprawled across his entire back. A line that might be a sword or staff, not clear enough to distinguish, ran down the middle of his back along his spine and at the top of the sword, the outline of a cloaked figure holding the sword. There were some lines branching off from the figure's shoulder, arching in a way that resembled wings, but that too was unclear. Naruto's clone got a good look at it and dispelled. Naruto's eyes widened. What the hell is that? Naruto turned to look Kyuubi in the eyes and the pity shown there was almost too much. It's the mark of a curse. 2 days later everyone was present at the Namikaze compound for the triplets' birthday, even though most only paid attention to 2 of the 3 children. Naruto sat in the corner of the room almost shaking from nerves, but he took a calming breath and tried to get a hold of himself. 2 days ago, Kyuubi explained to him what the mark on his back meant and what was waiting for him in the future. After hearing that, he was even more determined to get out of the village as soon as he can. Naruto haven't seen Najin in 2 days and he was almost starting to think that she left him. Not that he would blame her if what Kyuubi said was true. Menma and Mito were outside with the other clan heirs and children. Naruto had created 3 shadow clones and one was hiding in the room he and Kyuubi used to meet up and another was hiding in the backyard where his plans will take place. He heard the Hokage announce the party and give gifts to his other children and was surprised when Minato called his name. Naruto. Naruto looked up, everyone was looking at him. Yes. Don't you want your gifts? There was something like resignation in Minato and Kushina's face and still confused he accepted the gift they gave him. What changed? Naruto was even more surprised when he saw that Minato's gift was books on human anatomy, medicinal herbs and common poisons and cures. Kushina gave him 3 scrolls on basic medical techniques. Are they seriously accepting my dream to be a doctor? Why? They seemed adamant to go against me yesterday. He thanked them politely and looked at his gifts with wide eyes. He noted how neither of them looked him in the eyes as they did this. What changed? Next Jiraiya gave him a gift. He was looking at Naruto with pity, and Naruto had no idea how to feel about that. Jiraiya's gift was a book written by Tsunade Senju on medical principles, techniques and misconceptions. The book was very expensive and was like the Bible of medics. Why are they giving me these? What are their motives? Wow, maybe I should give medicine a try seeing as I now have some resources. Minato called for everyone's attention. Now I would like to make an announcement. Tonight I, Minato Namikaze, am officially naming Menma Namikaze as the heir to the Namikaze clan. Everyone clapped and cheered, but it was not much of a surprise considering that Menma was the eldest and rightful heir. Since Namikaze clan didn't have any special abilities or anything, Menma was the obvious choice. Menma yelled and cheered. And next Kushina stepped forward, and I, Kushina Uzumaki, am officially naming Mito Uzumaki as the heir to the Uzumaki clan. Similar cheers were heard, and Mito bowed to the crowd unlike her brother. Again it was no surprise considering that Mito was the second eldest and had the chakra chains. Minato took a deep breath and spoke again, this time looking directly at Naruto, and we are hereby removing Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze from the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans. Everyone gasped and Naruto gaped. I thought it would take more work than that to get disowned. Well, now I won't have to go through with the whole plan to get disowned. Now I only have to get Menma to pummel me. God help me. Oh wait, God's already gave up on me. The last thought was bitter and angry. Everyone was looking at him with pity, but again, they couldn't say that this was unexpected. Naruto's attitude had led to this, that's what they all thought. Naruto looked down playing the whole disappointed disowned son act. Excuse me, he said quietly and moved out of the hall. After adding his gifts to the storage seal in his pocket, Naruto waited in the backyard. Sure enough, Menma and Mito came out to taunt him just like expected. Ha, the loser finally got kicked out, Menma laughed, but to Naruto's surprise, the laugh was forced out like Menma was trying so hard to keep to some invisible script. Naruto looked at his brother in surprise. Mito was standing at the edge of the backyard not daring to look him in the eyes. What the hell? Are they sad? I thought they hated me. This day just keeps getting weird. The other kids however, especially the civilian kids, had no remorse and was taunting him openly. The clan kids had more reserve since they knew that getting disowned from the clan was not a pretty thing. Ha, yeah, you are a loser, that's why you got kicked out, a civilian kid said laughing. Naruto almost rolled his eyes, these kids need better lines. Shut up. Everyone including Naruto looked at Menma in surprise when he shouted. Then Menma stomped up to Naruto and grabbed hold of him by the collar of his shirt aggressively. Menma what? You? Menma growled, if you hadn't been so weak they wouldn't have kicked you out. If you had just agreed to become a shinobi they would have let you stay. Instead you were weak and arrogant and a bastard. And now you are no longer part of the clan. Are you happy now? Naruto had no idea what to say. None of this was part of the script he had in mind and it was all very confusing. Menma shook him and Naruto groaned. Are you happy now? He yelled again. All the other kids stayed back in surprise and were watching the scene unfold. Naruto desperately tried to come up with a reply that would turn this all in his favor. He can't risk the plan now. He placed his hand on Menma's hand which was gripping onto his shirt and stayed silent and closed his eyes. Why aren't you saying anything? Menma yelled. Naruto opened his eyes after a minute. The seal had been successfully placed on Menma. Weak? Naruto asked sneering, you are saying I am weak? Well, newsflash Menma, I am not the one that have been training since I was in diapers to get strong. So of course I am weak. Naruto really didn't feel the anger he was showing outside. Maybe if they had cared enough then I wouldn't have been weak as you said. But the fact is they didn't care, you didn't care, and after she got her bloodline she didn't care either, did you Mito? Mito didn't look up and instead left them all and went back inside. Do you remember Mito? Naruto called out knowing that she could still hear, it used to be you and me against the world. You and me, a team, always together, isn't that what you used to say? But then you got your bloodline and was suddenly too special to associate with the likes of me. Mito froze in her steps before running inside. Naruto looked back at Menma, and you? I thought you would be happy, brother, after all aren't you the one used to taunt me that you would expel me from the clan once you became clan head? Are you angry that you didn't get the chance to do it yourself? Menma looked sad and angry. It was pathetic sight and Naruto could no longer muster any anger at all. But he kept up with the outward appearance. Naruto sneered, you are pathetic. Menma growled angrily, take that back. No, I stand by what I said. All of your so-called strength is in that Biju chakra of yours and that isn't even yours to brag about. You are so desperate to believe that you are a hero, but all you are is a Jinchuriki. The true hero is the Sandaime Hokage. Menma was silent, but Naruto could see that he was close to snapping. Just a little more. Do you know what's more pathetic about you? You have been bragging about your power, that isn't even yours, and the fact is that even after Hokage-sama and Kushina-sama and Jiraiya-sama trained you for years, you still can't control it. you are a useless arrogant brat. Kyuubi watched the water outside its cage boil. And he could see what was happening as Menma lost more and more control. Be careful Naruto, Kyuubi said even though Naruto couldn't hear him. As Naruto spoke the last sentence the water boiled out and exploded and Kyuubi pushed the chakra out as much as he could. Naruto was thrown back by the chakra that exploded out of Menma. Hidden in one of the trees the clones started going through the long sequence of hand signs. They would have to be completed while Menma was still using Kyuubi's chakra. Inside the house the other clone felt the Kyuubi chakra and began its own set of hand signs. All the adults rushed outside. Naruto saw Mito and Kushina starting to use the chains and Minato and Jireya's hands moving to form signs. Hurry up, finish it. Naruto thought desperately and as if hearing his thoughts, his clones began going through signs faster. Menma jumped and was now crouching above Naruto who was lying on the ground panting. He had seals to avoid chakra poisoning, but such close proximity to Kyuubi's chakra was oppressing. Menma raised a hand to strike and Naruto closed his eyes. Please don't let me die. Naruto had no idea that he had said that out loud. For a moment everyone froze as Menma's hand came down. But to all their surprise instead of decapitating Naruto with those deadly claws, Menma cradled his face. Mito and Kushina's chains paused at this new development. Jireya told Minato to stop, wanting to see what was going on. Naruto opened his eyes when he felt a hand gently cradling his face. The Kyuubi's chakra didn't feel all that oppressing anymore. Blue eyes met blood red ones but Naruto knew that it wasn't his friend in control. It was Menma, but he wasn't attacking. Instead Menma bent forward and buried his face in the juncture of Naruto's neck and shoulder and cradled Naruto close. Naruto felt the Kyuubi's chakra slowly receding back and everyone looked on in awe. Now Naruto commanded urgently just as the clones finished the last set of hand seals and dispelled. Heavenly hand. Soul separation. Fuin. Menma screamed and lost any semblance of control. Naruto screamed as he felt Menma's claws digging into his neck and sides. Everyone watched in horror as the Kyuubi's chakra which had been receding exploded outward violently, covering the two children in a dome of red. Just as it came the chakra disappeared. Everyone rushed to find Naruto passed out, bleeding from his neck and sides, and Menma passed out on top of him. The clone in the yard dispelled while the clone inside the room erased the seal on the floor and used another seal to disappear from the house. What? What curse? Naruto asked bewildered. Kyuubi sighed, you saw the outline of the mark right? Naruto nodded. I believe the mark is the mark of Aion. It is the mark of the curse of eternal madness. Naruto's eyes were wide and scared. Kyuubi smiled awkwardly trying to comfort him. I am going to go crazy. Kyuubi looked at Naruto sadly, it's more than that kid. The mark it means that you are the next chosen wielder of the sword of Aion. One of the most powerful weapons that exists in the human realm, though only a few actually believe in its existence. And what does this sword have to do with the whole curse of eternal madness? Kyuubi sighed, every wielder of the sword have, with time, succumbed to the curse of madness and in the end they become homicidal maniacs. Naruto asked looking down. Yeah. Kyuubi whispered quietly. Naruto didn't know what to think. Did his parents know about this? Is that why they treated him like this, because he was going to end up as monster? Is there any way to? None that I know of Naruto. If you ever come in contact with the sword, you will be unable to resist its pull. And if you wield the sword the madness will follow. I see Najin knew about this. Naruto stated quietly. If she saw the mark she would have figured it out. So she left me. Kyuubi shook his head sadly, kid I might not know her much, but she does love you like you're her kid. I don't know why she left, but I have a feeling she would be back so give her the benefit of the doubt. Naruto nodded. Something flickered across his peripheral vision. Huh? Naruto turned to look at the corner, but there was nothing there. Did you see something? He turned to ask Kyuubi only to find that he was alone in the room. Kyuubi? He called softly and looked around in confusion. He heard a sound from behind him. It was almost like the ruffling of feathers. Naruto was confused as he woke up. He wondered what had happened and where he was. Blinking his eyes open, he felt something small and soft snuggled against his side. He looked down confused. There was a puppy snuggled against his side. Najin. His mind supplied helpfully. He was still a bit disoriented, but he knew that Najin had left him. Or so he had assumed. But now she was back and he was happy. The puppy barked and licked him in concern. Naruto was about to voice his thoughts to Najin when the other person in the room made themselves known. Naruto looked up sharply when Minato stepped out of the shadows. Najin growled and barked in a way that was meant to be intimidating, but there wasn't anything intimidating about it when she was a puppy barely a foot tall. Minato spared the pup with a perplexed glance as he said, I don't know how it got inside, but it refused to leave your side. Najin growled and Naruto automatically corrected Minato, she. Don't call her it. She doesn't like it. Najin almost nodded. Minato gave an assessing look at Najin, and Naruto felt protective as he picked her up and hugged her to his chest. Minato raised an eyebrow at that display but didn't comment on it. One of the nurses said that she is the same dog that follows you around in the village and that you are very fond of each other. So they let her stay. Still don't know how she got in here though. Naruto nodded. The part about nurses caught his attention and looking around he found that he was in the hospital. Naruto frowned as he tried to remember how he ended up here. The memories came back slowly but they sent him into a panic. Looking outside, he found out that it was still night. How long have I been out? Naruto asked. His throat was hoarse like he had spent hours screaming. Who knows, maybe he did because he definitely remembers the pain that Menma caused him before he passed out. Do you remember what happened? Minato asked instead of answering. Naruto nodded. Menma attacked me. Minato frowned. I assure you that it was not his intention to let the Kyuubi attack you. The Kyuubi, Naruto snorted, of course. Minato shook his head. You have been unconscious for 3 days. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. 3 days? 3 days. But then the plan. What happened to Kyuubi? You had some minor chakra burns and chakra poisoning. But somehow your chakra system was capable of taking care of majority of the damage such close exposure to Biju chakra should cause. There was a question and suspicion in Minato's words, but all Naruto could think was that it had been 3 days and his carefully constructed plans were in shambles. But mostly he was worried about what happened to Kyuubi's soul. This is a disaster. Where is Kyuubi? Is he even in this realm anymore or did his soul pass on? While Naruto was panicking, Minato was carefully observing his reactions. If you're worried that your plans are jeopardized, don't be. Naruto looked at Minato in shock and stuttered. What? He knows? How can he know? Did he find out Kyuubi? Minato looked at Naruto coolly. You are a smart kid. But I wouldn't be a cage if 7-year-old kids could con me into forwarding emancipation forms without me finding out. Naruto blinked. What? Minato sighed. You wanted to get away from us and the plan you came up with a plan to force us to disown you. I only figured it out when you tried to move those emancipation forms. Naruto almost sighed in relief. So he doesn't know the plan. Just part of it. Then Naruto looked at Minato curiously, but then that means you knew exactly what you were doing when you legalized those forms. Naruto had tried and apparently failed to sneak the emancipation forms past Minato last month. So his parents had been planning on disowning him since last month. Minato shook his head. I only legalized them yesterday. Naruto was surprised, but Minato cut him off. I made you believe that they were legalized. It was not that difficult. I wanted to know what you were planning on. Although I must say a lot of things made sense when I saw those forms. Your whole rebellious streak was part of your plan, right? Minato shook his head. Well, now you have what you want. You are no longer part of the Namikaze or Uzumaki family. You can leave the village like you want and no one will be able to stop you. You can follow your dreams and become a doctor. Naruto looked down. None of this was part of the plan. But in the end it was working out, except that Kyuubi might be in trouble. Why are you here, Hokage-sama? Minato frowned. I am not sure if I am doing the right thing by telling you this. But I guess I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. You always wondered why we acted the way we did to you. I will tell you why. There is a prophecy regarding you. It is said that you will bring destruction with a powerful weapon. Naruto knew all this but still snorted disbelieving, and you believe in such superstition. It's not superstition as much as destiny. Minato didn't look at Naruto as he said the next words. There is a destiny waiting for you, Naruto, and it's not a good one. One day you and I will stand on opposite sides of the battlefield and that day I will be more than ready to kill you. Naruto looked at him wide-eyed with shock. Did you just threaten to kill me? Minato sighed. As much as I don't like it, Naruto, fate is a fickle thing. It's not a threat but a warning. If you ever become a threat, it will be your end. So for your sake I hope against all odds that you fulfill your dreams and live your life-saving lives as a doctor. Naruto gazed down at his hands clenched on his lap. What do you think fate has on store for me? Minato sighed. Something you don't deserve. Naruto just nodded. Do you hate me? Minato frowned. Hate you? No, I don't. Naruto wanted to protest, but Minato cut him off. But I will not lie that I love you. Naruto blinked. Why? What have I ever done to you? Nothing. You have done nothing wrong yet. The only reason I stopped seeing you as a son, as family, was because I knew what is waiting for you in the future. If you ever turned evil, I'd rather not have to kill someone I love. Naruto huffed out a laugh. So it's that easy, huh? Never knew that. Minato was silent. I never tried to understand you, and I never tried to love you after I found out the prophecy. And I am not going to start now. Your fate is still hanging on the balance of a curse, and I don't want my children in my village getting hurt. As children, had things been different, had fate been more kind to you, we may have become a perfect family. But the truth is that fate dealt you a curse, and now you have to live with it. Naruto scoffed. So why the fuck didn't you just kill me the moment you found out? Why keep me alive so I could grow into a threat? I don't murder innocent children, Naruto. And despite everything, that's what you still are. Maybe in the future that will change, and then I might be able to kill you, but now I can't and I won't. Naruto chuckled ruefully, careful Hokage-sama, you might come regret that decision in the future. Minato's eyes hardened, Naruto, I am giving you a chance to live your life as you want it before the curse catches up with you. And you're already trying to make me regret that. Naruto closed his eyes, please leave Hokage-sama, I would like to be alone now. Minato nodded and stood up, good luck Naruto. I hope you can outrun the curse. Naruto didn't open his eyes even after Minato left. What do you think, Najin? What a life I have. Naruto didn't look at Najin, I thought you left. You were gone for 2 days. You didn't say why you left. You didn't say when you'd be back, you were gone. I thought you left me. Najin nudged him gently as she tried to make him look at her, but he didn't. Naruto just looked out the window, avoiding looking at her. Why did you leave? Was it because of the curse? Naruto sighed, I wouldn't blame you if that was the reason, Najin. Despite being a kid, I am not selfish enough to tie you to me. Najin growled softly, never look at me. Naruto looked at her wanting an answer. That day I was coming back from giving food to that woman and kid when I overheard your parents talking with Jiraiya, Najin sighed, they were talking about the sword. And I listened in. That's when I heard them talking about the prophecy. When I found out that you were meant to be that cursed sword's wielder, I nearly lost it, pup. I didn't leave. I was there, I just needed time to find a way. Naruto looked at her curiously, what way? To help you? I will die before I let that curse hurt you. Najin Naruto sighed and hugged her. We will talk later, but first we need find out what happened to Caillou. Naruto was worried, but Najin calmed him. He's fine at the moment. I know where he is. When can we leave? Naruto was relieved to know that Kyuubi was safe. Right now. Naruto stepped outside the village gates and a sense of freedom washed over him. Along the way, many of the villagers looked at him in pity, but he wasn't bothered by it. Najin trotted alongside him in her puppy form. Before he could get out of the gates though, someone stopped him. Naruto-sama. Naruto turned around startled. It was a group of kids coming towards him. By the looks of it, they were part of the orphans and the homeless. A few adults were with them as well. All of them were people Naruto had helped. It was a tearful goodbye. And he told them the same lie about traveling around to become a doctor. Many of those who listened, even some of the shinobi and the people he had pranked, were impressed by how noble his goal was. It was nice to see that they cared, but they were acting as if he was being exiled when he was leaving of his free will. He told them as such. Will you ever come back, Naruto-sama? Naruto shook his head. He could never get to stop them from calling him that. I am afraid I can't make any promises on that. But I do hope that one day we will meet again. Goodbye everyone, it's time I take my leave. Naruto walked out the gate and the people dispersed. He was stopped by one person. Naruto looked up at Uzumaki Kushina. Don't ever come back to Konoha, she said sternly. Najin bristled angrily, but Naruto didn't see any hostility in Kushina's expression. Naruto looked at her curiously, I don't plan to. Kushina shook her head, if you know what's good for you, stay away from Konoha. She gave a moment for the warning to sink in. She was ignoring the stunned gasps from the Chunin gate guards near them. Kushina was satisfied when Naruto nodded. Naruto thought she was acting strange. Then again to his surprise she took out a scroll and handed it to him. Naruto looked at the scroll curiously. Keep it, it will come of use. Goodbye. Before he could reply she was gone. Naruto looked at where she stood and at the scroll, frustrated, before signing and placing the scroll in a storage seal inside his pocket. Everything else he had was also placed in the storage seal. Naruto turned to face the gates once more. He could feel the chakra of his siblings hiding behind the gate. Goodbye, he said decisively and walked away with Najin. Naruto walked out the village gates with Najin accompanying him. As soon as the gates were no longer visible, Naruto rushed to the forest ahead. From the tree branches a little boy numbered down beside Naruto. On closer observation it could be seen that it wasn't another boy but a clone of Naruto. Kyuubi, Naruto called out relieved. The clone sighed, hey kid. Are you okay? I am not sure. This clone won't last too long. We need to leave fast. Kyuubi's voice was strained. Naruto nodded, where to? Lightning Country, a little town near the Akuma mountain called Tensai. Naruto nodded, your friend will be there? I wouldn't call her a friend, Kyuubi grumbled, but yeah, she'll be there. How long do we have? 3 days at most before my soul gets reaped or something, Kyuubi said, slightly frightened. Naruto frowned, 3 days. That's from here to Lightning Country, it will take more than 4 days. I am not fast enough to get there that soon. He panicked. Kyuubi took on a pained expression. Both of them calculating the best way to do this that wouldn't result in Kyuubi getting acquainted with the Shinigami. The fact of the matter was that they didn't know what would happen to Kyuubi if his time runs out. A soul without an anchor couldn't stay in the realm for long without losing its physical prowess. The plan was to get Kyuubi to his friend who was somewhere in Lightning Country as soon as possible. But Naruto had spent 3 days in the hospital. Kyuubi told Naruto that his friend could help but didn't say how. For demons, when they die they are sent back to the Yokai realm and becomes one with the nature there. But Kyuubi was now just a soul without any yokai, so all of it was uncertain, and that scared even Kyuubi. From behind the both of them a loud snort was heard. A large shadow fell upon them. And the both of you conveniently forgot that you have a shapeshifter with you. The both of them faced a sarcastic voice, and Naruto's jaw dropped open. Kyuubi looked very impressed. Standing before them was a majestic creature with white scales covering its body and large white wings spread out. It was a huge white dragon. Naruto barely had the chance to squeal, "Najin." Before he and Kyuubi were picked up by the long white tail and placed securely on its back. "Better hold on boys," Naruto and Kyuubi scrambled to obey cause we're gonna break the speed limit, and with that she took off. In the end it was no surprise that they made it to the town in 1.5 days. Najin landed on the valley hidden by the Akuma mountain. She gently placed her 2 passengers on the ground. Naruto watched amazed as her form twisted and turned until she was in her usual puppy form. Naruto frowned, "Najin, are you alright?" "Yeah," her eyes drooped just as tired she finished with a yawn. Kyuubi snorted, "Of course you are tired. You are the idiot who insisted on not taking a break from that form. I figured that such large forms would take more out of you than your other forms. And you didn't even properly rest, but I do appreciate what you did. So thank you." Najin snorted but was too tired to respond otherwise. Naruto shook his head fondly and picked her up to cradle her against his chest. She immediately fell asleep. Naruto smiled at her. "Come on, let's get to the town." From the valley it was a 2-hour journey to the town. Once they reached Tensai, Naruto let Kyuubi lead them to his friend. The people were looking strangely at the twin boys wandering around town. Many of them asked them where their parents were. Kyuubi, who didn't have any positive human interaction excluding Naruto, froze when they asked something and almost unconsciously huddled up to Naruto. It was amusing how the strangers cooed over how adorable the ex-demon lord was. Kyuubi was offended. Naruto managed to steer them out of such situations expertly. Kyuubi sighed when they finally reached their destination and escaped from disrespectful humans. Naruto stared at the isolated small house at the far edge of the town. The house was near the town burial ground and it creeped Naruto out slightly. He hugged Najin tightly for comfort. Kyuubi confidently went up and knocked. A moment later the door was opened by a kind-looking woman outfitted like priestess. "Why hello there, what are you young children doing here?" Her dark eyes flickered from Kyuubi to Naruto to Najin and again back to Naruto where it stayed. Naruto squirmed uncomfortably when she licked her lips with a distinctly hungry look in her eyes. He almost took a step back but stayed his ground. Kyuubi snorted, "Stop staring at the kid, you hag." The woman looked at Kyuubi enraged, "Who the hell are you to call? Wait a minute, I know you. You're that asshole spider demon, aren't you?" Kyuubi sighed, "No, you stupid fool. I am not a spider demon." The woman took a closer look and snorted, "I get it, you are some stupid demon that lost its power and let me guess, you want me restored." No, Kyuubi was cut off before he could explain. "Well, I am not gonna do it. I quit that business long ago." So despite the tempting offering, her black eyes flickered to Naruto, "Find someone else." Kyuubi growled. But the woman wasn't listening anymore. Instead she stepped outside the hut. In the sunlight she looked very beautiful. It only creeped Naruto out further. The woman came and crouched in front of him looking him up and down. The hunger in her eyes pronounced dangerously. "But I think I'll make an exception for you." She wasn't addressing Naruto, and Naruto saw Kyuubi's eyes narrow dangerously at the woman's actions. "This one is special. I can smell it, dear Yami. So delicious, I'll do it, so be grateful." She finally turned to address Kyuubi. "Hey Kyuubi," Naruto stuttered out scared. The woman froze. Her eyes widened considerably and she whipped her head back to look at Naruto. "What did you say?" From behind her a dangerous growl rang out and she shuddered before schooling her features to look at Kyuubi. "Kyuubi-sama," she bowed till her forehead touched the ground. "I am deeply sorry for not recognizing you, master. Tell me whatever it is you want and it shall be done. You had no need to bring me an offering." Her eyes flickered to look at Naruto when she said the last sentence. Naruto looked at Kyuubi whose eyes had turned red. "Listen to me, witch. Naruto is my charge and thereby under my protection. Harm one hair on him and I will make you suffer. Do you understand?" The woman nodded frightfully. Naruto felt confused as to what was happening. Kyuubi had said that this was a friend, but then why are they acting like this? Kyuubi looked at Naruto softly and said, "Come on kid," before turning around and entering the creepy woman's hut like he owned it. Naruto hesitated a bit before following Kyuubi inside. He definitely didn't want to be left behind with the woman. The inside the hut was like a palace. It was deceptively poor on the outside and extravagant on the inside. "Ninjutsu?" Naruto asked. Kyuubi shook his head, "No, it's a demonic illusion. Much more powerful but theoretically the same thing. Uses yokai instead of chakra." Naruto nodded while looking around, still staying close to Kyuubi. Najin squirmed but didn't wake up. The woman entered the house behind them. Her eyes were firmly fixed on the ground. "Is she a demon?" Naruto asked. No, she's a witch. Seeing Naruto's confused face he decided to explain, witches are humans that creates contracts with demons for power and many other things. The contract contains many clauses and if they are not careful the demons will devour them on technicalities. The woman sighed and took a dark glass bottle from the shelf and took a sip. She sat down heavily as Kyuubi explained further about his friend. She had created a contract with the wrong demon and paid the price. I was the one who saved her before the demon could devour her. So she owes me a life debt. We hate each other, but she has no choice but to obey me. I see Naruto frowned, you said you were friends. Kyuubi looked sheepish causing Naruto to sigh and the woman to snort. Who are you boy? Naruto looked at the woman, I am Naruto and I am Kyuubi's friend. The woman rolled her eyes, what you owe him a life debt too? Kyuubi huffed, no I actually like him. So don't piss me off by being disrespectful to him. The woman looked defeated, what do you want master? Why did you seek me out after 2 centuries? Naruto looked at her suspiciously, you are that old. Didn't you listen Naruto-sama, I am witch. So I am entitled to a long life, but then again I am no longer entirely human either, so I guess I am entitled to an even longer life. Naruto nodded uncomfortably before asking, why did you call me an offering? The woman fidgeted, well I used to help some of the local demons and they bring me some offerings I thought this was a case like that. I really apologize for my behavior. I haven't acted like that for a long time you see. I gave up on all that. But you she gulped, you sent your aura it's intoxicating and I just forgot myself for a moment. She looked ashamed. Naruto was still confused, what do you do with them? The offerings I mean. She fidgeted again and Naruto was about to apologize for the question when Kyuubi answered. She's a ghoul. The what? Naruto asked confused. Kyuubi sighed, they are demonic creatures that feed on human flesh, especially children. Naruto took a step back scared even more. I don't harm humans anymore though. I live peacefully. She tried to explain. Kyuubi snorted, right then how are you alive if you don't feed oh, he paused as he came to a realization. She didn't look up from the floor. That's why you live here. Near the burial ground, she nodded. You really have changed. Kyuubi said gaping, what brought this on? I met someone about 100 years ago she smiled sadly, he passed away, but I try to keep my promise to him. Kyuubi was silent. Naruto broke the silence, you never told me your name. The woman smiled at that, oh, my name is Yuki. Naruto nodded before looking at Kyuubi, but he was too lost in thought to speak, so Naruto decided to get to the matter, we came here because Kyuubi needs a new body. Yuki frowned before analyzing Kyuubi, it's a clone, her eyes widened, that's why I didn't feel anything from him if you don't mind me asking, what happened to your power? Kyuubi shrugged, decided that I was better off without it. She just nodded. I can construct a body. It will take a day at most. Will you be okay till then? Naruto and Kyuubi nodded. You are welcome to stay here if you'd like. Naruto looked at Kyuubi and Kyuubi agreed. Naruto-sama, I have brought some breakfast for you. Naruto had just woken up and went downstairs. Yuki greeted him with a smile. He smiled. He had thought a lot about her last night and decided that he admired her for her resolve not to hurt humans. Naruto was a bit dubious when she said breakfast, considering her diet he couldn't be blamed. She just laughed at him and showed him to the dining table. Apparently she had gone out to the town to get food for him and his pet. My pet? Najin is not my pet. She's my familiar. Yuki was surprised at that, a familiar. It's been a while since I have seen or even heard about one of them. You must be very special if you have one. Naruto smiled sadly at that, yes special. Yuki was confused by his sadness. I will be ready to prepare the body for master by noon. You just need to specify the necessary features, age, gender and anything else. Well I will have to ask Kyuubi, but why would you need to know the gender? Isn't he male? Yuki shook her head smiling, no Naruto-sama. Demons have no gender. They just take on the gender of whatever body they inhabit. The exceptions are humans who become demonized. They will retain whatever gender they had, but I don't think it ever matters after you become a demon. Naruto nodded, so Kyuubi is genderless I'll ask him ere. Yuki chuckled at Naruto's confusion, you can refer to him as male Naruto-sama, since he is after all inhabiting a male body right now. Naruto nodded smiling awkwardly, okay oh and please stop calling me Naruto-sama. I really don't like it. Yuki smiled, I apologize, but I have no other option. As soon as master declared you as his charge your position became above me. It's not really a problem Naruto-sama you shouldn't give it much thought. Naruto sighed. Alright then Yuki-sama. Yuki was startled, Naruto-sama you shouldn't. Naruto smiled, it's not really a problem Yuki-sama. You shouldn't give it much thought he teased. Then he added more seriously, but really I think you are deserving of that title. I respect you for your resolve in not hurting humans Yuki-sama. Naruto bowed to her and Yuki smiled softly. Well you are so sweet Naruto-sama no wonder I wanted to eat you. Naruto pouted at her teasing. I do hope you are not serious. Yuki looked at the source of the voice and found Najin standing there in her female form. Najin was looking at Yuki dubiously. Najin, Naruto called, please stop your posturing, I like her. Najin grumbled and Yuki smiled when he said that. Kyuubi entered following Najin. Yuki nodded at Kyuubi, master, I would need your specifications for the body you require. Kyuubi didn't hesitate, male, 15 years old, lean, athletic, blue eyes, black hair. Make the facial structure and eyes similar to Naruto's, so it looks like we are related. Add one of the dark bloodlines if you have one that is. Add the royal markings of the Kitsune clan as well. Yuki pursed her lips and thought about it. Why do you want to look related to Naru? Kyuubi looked at Najin, the kid is already like family to be. So let the others think so too. Naruto wondered if Kyuubi understood the impact he made on Naruto with those casual words. Naruto didn't try to his smile. Najin nodded at Kyuubi approvingly. Yuki smiled and them asked, so what about the bloodline? Which one do you want? I can only incorporate one into the body so don't get greedy. Naruto looked at Kyuubi, what exactly is a dark bloodline? Kyuubi was deep in thought so Yuki answered for him, they are not really bloodlines. They are demonic traits that can given to certain humans. Only some of them are inheritable. They are called dark because of the demonic origin. But the thing is that most bloodlines are of demonic origin, humans just don't know it, or if they do they don't acknowledge it anyway, the dark bloodlines are not known to many. Only those that have came into contact with demons or otherwise knowledgeable know of them. How many dark bloodlines are there? They can't be counted Naruto-sama. There are as many dark bloodlines as there are demons. Naruto nodded, how would you incorporate them into Kyuubi's body? It's simple. Kyuubi spoke up suddenly, which ones do you have with you? Yuki was thoughtful for a moment before speaking, well I have the spider, cat, panther, dog, diva, asura, pishacha, serpent, dragon, elf and phoenix demon's blood with me. If you need something else I can try and arrange it. Kyuubi shook his head, no need. So you have decided? Kyuubi nodded, elf. Yuki looked very surprised at that, are you sure? Kyuubi glared at her for doubting his decision. What's wrong with elf? Naruto asks. Yuki shrugs, nothing's wrong with it. It's just that I thought he'd choose dragon or phoenix since they're the more destructive bloodlines. Elf blood gives a less destructive one. Naruto frowned thoughtfully, so what does the bloodline do? Well but then she paused, I think I'll let you see it before explaining it. Wait till tomorrow morning. So if that's all then I can start making the body. Kyuubi thought for some more time before nodding, that's it. Yuki bowed and left the room to work in her basement. Naruto finished his breakfast thinking about all that had happened so far. I wonder what's in that scroll. What scroll? Kyuubi asked. Kushina gave me a scroll before I left. Said that it will be useful. Najin frowned, I don't like her. Kyuubi grumbled, who does? Let's check it out anyway, I am almost done with breakfast. After food all three of them sat huddled around the table as Naruto opened Kushina's scroll. It was a storage scroll divided into 5 compartments and the contents of the first compartment fell on the table as they released it. There were a lot of books. Popular medical practices, anatomy, poisons and cures, non-shinobi and shinobi medical practices and the differences, another 2 books by Tsunade and 3 books written by Chio of Suna on poisons, by Hajime of Waterfall on failed medicine, and by Shizune on basic medic training. For someone who hates you she sure seemed to want your dream to come true. Najin said. Naruto shook his head, you're wrong. She doesn't hate me. Najin began protesting, but Naruto doesn't let her finish. Neither does she love me. As far as she is concerned I am just another kid. But she does have an interest in me becoming a doctor, if only because she doesn't want me to end up as my fate dictates. Najin sighed at that. Kyuubi was frowning as well. The next part of the storage scroll contained rations. A lot of them. Did she think you were going to some famine-infested land? Kyuubi asked wide-eyed. There was enough rations to last the 3 of them for about a year. And since all of them were shinobi rations they would last even longer. Naruto just sat there stunned and not knowing what to say. He quietly moved to open the 3rd compartment. More books this time on basic Fuinjutsu by Minato, Kushina and Jiraiya and another Uzumaki, mental techniques, mind defense, all written by the Yamanaka. There was also a book on how to access the mindscape and to repel unwanted emotions. That one was more in-depth and looked like the ones used by Yamanaka clan children alone. With all the books he could open a small library if not for the lack of variety. So far it seemed Kushina wanted him to have a chance at his dream of becoming a doctor, as well as resisting whatever darkness she thought was plaguing his mind and learn some basic Fuinjutsu. There are 2 more compartments and Naruto sighed before releasing the next one. The boatload of supplies ranging from medicinal herbs under preservation seals, Fuinjutsu supplies, dried herbs, bombs, first aid medical supplies, soldier pills, food pills, blood replenishment pills, chakra replenishment pills, cures to a wide range of poisons, crude medicine for chakra poisoning. Whoa. Naruto said, I think she thinks I am going to a war zone. No shit. Najin snorted. Did you guys loot the library, hospital and shinobi store while I was in the basement? All three of them looked to see Yuki standing there with a stunned look at the amount of stuff on her dining table and floor, since the dining table wasn't really enough to hold all of it. Naruto shook his head, "This is a parting gift from my ex-family." "Ex-family?" Yuki asked softly. "I was exiled from the clan." Oh, Yuki didn't know what to say to that. Naruto just silently turned back to the scroll. There was one compartment left to open. They opened the fifth compartment. A scroll fell out. An Uzumaki scroll. All three of them were stunned this time. An Uzumaki scroll. Naruto found his voice, "That's the seal, it's one of the royal scrolls. One of the remnants of the royal Uzumaki line." Najin opened her mouth before closing it a few times looking like a goldfish. Yuki was looking on curiously. Why would she? Naruto opened the Uzumaki scroll. He looked at the scroll that detailed one of the original Uzumaki seals. "What is it?" Najin finally asked. Naruto blankly passed the scroll to Kyuubi. Kyuubi looked at Naruto's blank expression a little worried. So he observed the seal and gaped. "It's a suppression seal." Najin frowned, why would she give him a suppression seal? Kyuubi shook his head, "It's not just a suppression seal. It's a more powerful one used for sealing away a mental entity. It can be anything from alter egos, memories to insanity." Najin frowned before her eyes widened, "You mean this can help Naru if he ever got controlled by the sword?" "She had this," Naruto said, "and she just gave up on me." "Naru, kid." Naruto shook his head, "I am not even sure why I am surprised anymore." They all stayed silent for some time. Then Yuki spoke, "The body is ready. We can do the ritual once I get some rest and some food in me." Naruto tried to hide his grimace at the thought of her food. He wasn't entirely successful, and Yuki gave him a sad smile. Yuki silently left the house, leaving the three of them to discuss their plans. "What do we do after this?" Najin and Kyuubi both looked at Naruto. "I don't know, kid. I just want to see places and people, so maybe we can travel around. But then what do you want to do?" Naruto smiled at Kyuubi. Then Najin just said, "I have no specific purpose in mind. So wherever you go I go." Naruto looked down frowning, "The thing is that I never really thought about what I wanted to do. If our plan worked, all I thought about was getting free of them. What should I do?" Kyuubi thought about it for some time. "What do you want to do with life? What are your dreams?" Naruto shrugged, "Well, at first my dream was freedom. Now that I have got it, I want to prove them wrong. They're also sure that I will play my part in whatever prophecy they believe in. I want to prove them wrong. I want to help people, not harm them. I want to become a good person, not a homicidal maniac, but I don't know how to begin or where to begin." "Well, maybe you can start by putting those books to good use," Yuki said as she stepped inside. Naruto looked at her curiously, "What do you mean? You want to save people, you want to be a good person, then why not become a doctor?" "There are always people who pray for the help of a good doctor, but are denied because they either don't have money or the chance. If you become a doctor you can help anyone you want, you can heal people, anyone can take a life, Naruto-sama, but only some can't save one." Naruto stayed silent as he thought about what Yuki said. She waited a moment before speaking again, "You have all the resources to become a doctor, and if you want to, I know a doctor in town who will train you. If you don't, you can always choose another path. You are still a kid, Naruto-sama, no one wants you to choose your career choice by tomorrow." Naruto frowned thinking about it, and he thought that Yuki was right. If he ever thought that the profession wasn't his cup of tea, he could always start over. It's not like there is anyone to stop him. Besides, he had the resources and it would be a waste to not use them. Naruto glanced nervously at Kyuubi and Najin. Right now they were the only ones he looked up to, his family, and their approval meant a lot to him. Najin and Kyuubi looked like they'd support whatever his decision is. Naruto smiled. "I want to give it a try. I want to become a doctor." All three as the adult smiled proudly at his decision. "I'll take you to the town to meet my friend after the ritual. We don't know when Kyuubi-sama will wake up, so your studies will keep you occupied until then," Yuki said. "What do you mean that you won't know when Kyuubi wakes up?" Naruto asked concerned. Yuki just smiled comfortingly, "Do not worry, Naruto-sama, it is just part of the process of his soul adjusting to the new body. He'll sleep through the whole time it takes for his soul to adjust, but I assure you he will be fine." Naruto nodded, "Can we see his body?" "I am curious too," Najin said. When Yuki looked at Kyuubi for permission, the ex-demon lord nodded. They all went down to the basement where the body was laid out in the middle, what looked like a Fuinjutsu complex, but Naruto could not understand it. The body possessed all the features Kyuubi had requested. There were 2 royal blue stripes on its cheeks, think of Sesshomaru's stripes, that were the markings of the kitsune. "What is that? Is that Fuinjutsu?" Naruto asked. Yuki shook her head, "No, Naruto-sama, they are runes for the spell. It is essentially Fuinjutsu in the demonic tongue," Kyuubi said, and Yuki nodded. "Well, Yuki, I want you to teach Naruto the demonic tongue when I am out." Yuki frowned, "But Kyuubi-sama, the demonic tongue is difficult to learn, and I do not possess in-depth knowledge, I simply know those required for my spells." Kyuubi smiled, "Just teach him what you know, Yuki. He will take to it easily, I believe, after all he is a Fuinjutsu master." Yuki gaped at Naruto, a Fuinjutsu master. You are only 7. Najin and Kyuubi chuckled while Naruto smiled shyly. Yuki shook her head, let's start the ritual Najin, Naruto-sama, I need you to go back upstairs. Naruto and Najin left after one last look at Kyuubi and his soon-to-be body. He didn't know how he ended up here, but here was sitting in front of the death god, the fucking death god drinking tea. The Shinigami who was in their less terrifying form resembling that of a little boy with lively black eyes and healthy complexion, seemed amused with his reaction. Kyuubi thought again how he ended up here. Still, for all the talk about being the god of death, looking at the Shinigami felt like looking at new life. That's because despite what some thinks, death is in a way birth of a new life, a new journey. Okay, so Shinigami can read minds too. I am here to talk about the consequences of your actions, Kyuubi. Kyuubi swallowed. Consequences never meant a good thing. The Shinigami smiled slightly, you're not getting punished, Kyuubi, I am simply here to explain the rules. Rules? Kyuubi asked out loud even though it was unnecessary. Shinigami nodded, you have turned yourself into a human. Kyuubi nodded. It's simple. Now that you are human you fall under my domain. You are not immortal, you are not a Biju or a demon. When you die you will be reaped like just any other human soul, and your afterlife will be influenced by whatever actions you committed during your human life. Kyuubi swallowed heavily. Was he ready for that? To give up all that he was? What did he have as a demon? Power, immortality, hatred, imprisonment, madness, but as a human he would be weak, mortal and would have family, freedom. And despite the overwhelming fear that Kyuubi felt like this was the right choice. The Shinigami nodded. You will not be the Kyuubi no Kitsune any longer. Even if you keep your name as Kyuubi it will hold no power. And when the chakras sealed within your Jinchuriki are released, it will go back to demon realm and become part of the realm. Kyuubi didn't look away from the Shinigami as he said all this. True that everything was terrifying and new, but Kyuubi definitely believed this to be the right choice. The Shinigami gave him a moment more before nodding, it's decided then. When you wake up you will be human, completely. Farewell till we meet again. Kyuubi blinked and then he was gone. When he woke up he was a little disoriented. He felt weird and awkward. His body was either too small or too long, and it was generally hard to keep in control of it. It was different from being inside a clone or a controlling memma while he was asleep. Having a human body of his own was weird, but he liked it. Except that his new body felt as weak and uncoordinated as a newborn fowl. Kyuubi cursed, of course as old as this body looked it was technically a newborn. This body, his body, has no muscle memory of any sort, and this was embarrassing to find himself sprawled on the ground like this. The commotion must have caught someone's attention because Kyuubi heard the door open. He looked forward to seeing the companions that he had claimed as family. It wouldn't mean as much as it did when he was a Biju, but a claim was a claim, and they were his. It was Naruto who opened the door. Kid? Kyuubi asked wincing as his voice came out in a pitch he didn't intend. But more than that, Kyuubi was shocked as he observed Naruto who stood there gaping at him. Naruto looked taller, older. How long have I been unconscious? Kyu? Naruto asked gaping. Who else could it be, kid, the tooth fairy? Kyuubi snarked. Naruto's eyes became moist rapidly and he launched himself at Kyuubi and was saying his name almost reverently. Like he couldn't believe that he was awake. Kyuubi swallowed heavily and hugged him back. He felt like drowning when he realized what the wetness rolling down his cheeks was. He is a demon lord, not a hormonal teenager, except that he kind of is a hormonal teenager. Demons do not cry, but he's human now, so he vehemently swore that this doesn't count. Even through his embarrassment he didn't let go of Naruto, not did the tears stop. This was the scene Najin came in to see. Both of them hugging each other for dear life while crying. She didn't disturb them and just stood there silently. Kyuubi saw her and nodded at her through his tears, and Najin just nodded back. Yuki came in after her. The relief she felt when she saw Kyuubi awake was immense. Kyuubi studied their expression and Naruto's reaction. It wasn't hard to conclude that he was missing something big. The house looked different than before, Kyuubi noted. Not much, just a few things added here and there, a few pictures of Najin, Naruto and Yuki. The main difference was that the whole house felt like a home, not the cold but luxurious building that it had been when Kyuubi last saw it, but a home. I feel like I am missing a lot of things. Naruto just nodded, that's because you did miss a lot of things. Kyuubi rolled his eyes, so how long have I been out? Naruto looked down and mumbled something. Kid, I don't have super senses, at least not anymore. Kyuubi said playfully. 3 years. Kyuubi looked up shocked at Najin. 3 years. 3. That explained a lot of things, then Naruto would be around 10 right now. Kyuubi felt an unexpected pang in his chest. He wanted to be there when Naruto grew up. Kyuubi was brought out of his thoughts by Naruto. He smiled and pushed his earlier feelings away. So tell me what all happened during the time I was out. Well, Naruto started happily, I am a doctor now. Kyuubi blinked then smiled, wow. That's great. Najin chuckled, that's your reaction when you hear that a 9-year-old became a doctor. Kyuubi frowned confused, is that something unusual? I mean I have heard of 10-year-olds being in the Anbu, so what's so strange about he already being a doctor? And he's 9. Naruto smiled, it's because becoming a doctor the conventional way takes about 5 to 6 years for civilians, and it takes 3 to 4 years to become a fully fledged medic min for a shinobi. And often they only start their training when they are in their teens. Kyuubi nods, so by the time they become a doctor, they would be generally twice your age. Then how did you become a doctor? And you're 9. Najin shook her head fondly while Naruto smiled a little shyly but proud of himself, apparently he's a prodigy in the medical field. And he's 9 because he only turns 10 this weekend. Finally we can have a happy birthday for Naruto. You won't believe how miserable he have been for the last 3 years. Kyuubi smiled and ruffled Naruto's hair, well I am awake now kid. So we're going to have a blast on your birthday. Naruto just smiled softly, it doesn't matter as long as I have my family with me. Kyuubi swallowed heavily and felt that his eyes were a little damp. Damn human emotions and teenage hormones. Dinner is, for the first time in 3 years, a happy event. That's how Yuki and Najin sees it. Naruto didn't seem to notice, too absorbed in making Kyuubi up to date on the news. The boy is smiling so bright that it makes them all smile. After the first 2 months passed and Kyuubi didn't wake up, Yuki was a little worried. She checked the spellwork over and over to make sure that she hadn't made a mistake. She didn't tell Naruto and Najin that it was taking too long, she told them that he will wake up soon. By the 5th month Naruto started worrying and Yuki's excuses were running out. But she couldn't find anything wrong. She said that to Naruto and Najin when they finally cornered her. It didn't ease any of their worries. Naruto's only distraction was Dr. Aya, the town's medic. She was the one who was teaching him medicine. The woman had been happy to share her knowledge on herbs and such, but considered the boy too young to do more without supervision. But she had changed her opinion 2 months later when Naruto turned out to be an excellent healer. Yuki taught him the demonic tongue, and as Kyuubi had predicted he learned it easily enough. At least the logic of it. Studying to use the language was a bit more difficult, but he was a hard worker, so he managed to do it. The studies only distracted him so much and the rest of the time he was constantly worrying about Kyuubi. By the time 1 year had passed Najin was beginning to lose hope. Yuki still remembered when Naruto had lashed out at her when Najin had dared to speak her thoughts out loud. I his family. I don't care if it takes years, decades or even a century, I will not leave him to his fate. Najin, though sad that Naruto thought she would abandon Kyuubi, didn't protest. She just sat down and pulled the boy close and held him like that. He was trembling then. Even though he would wait however long it took Kyuubi to recover, he was afraid that Kyuubi wouldn't wake up before Naruto died. In this world of ninja it was not a guarantee that you'll live to see your middle age, especially considering the curse. Naruto was afraid that he would never get to experience the family that Kyuubi had mentioned, the bond that he felt with the demon-turned-human would remain aching till the day he died. Yuki looked at the two of them and joined them in the hug. The two women cradled the young boy between them and took comfort from each other. It became a strange sort of dynamic after that. The few times they went to the village together, everyone assumed that Naruto was Yuki's son, and she found no need to correct anyone. After all, Naruto was like a son to her by now. People also assumed that the redhead they would sometimes see with the boy was his elder sister. As far as Naruto was concerned, these assumptions were not wrong. Yuki still remembered Naruto's reply when Dr. Aya had asked about his family. Well, you know my mom, he said looking at Yuki, and I have a big brother and sister too. Soon after that the story became that Yuki had 3 children. Najin the eldest, and people knew her since she worked at the local library sometimes, Kurama the second child who was in a coma, and Naruto the youngest who was studying with a local medic. When Yuki had asked why Naruto chose the name Kurama for Kyuubi, he replied with, well, we can't keep calling him Kyuubi around others, and Kurama just felt right. 2 years passed and Naruto had studied everything Aya had to teach. Further, she helped him in gaining some experience and learning further using the scrolls and books he had at his disposal. When he had reached the end of civilian medicine, Najin taught him medic ninjutsu. Naruto had also fully grasped the demonic tongue by then. The 3rd year was difficult. They still didn't give up hope and were trying all they could. Yuki was plagued by the guilt that it was somehow her fault. Despite Naruto and Najin trying their best to help her get over her grief, it got harder each day. Naruto was about to receive his certification as a doctor, and Naruto decided that he had something to do before that. So he asked Aya to give him some more time. He didn't say what his plans were, and Najin and Yuki were curious. 2 weeks after Naruto had started plotting, he came to them. I want you guys to become my family. Yuki and Najin were confused, aren't we already family, Naru? Naruto nodded, we are, but I meant legally. That came as a surprise. But they agreed. And good thing that Yuki had a lot of people who owed her favors. By the end of the years legally they were Naruto Hayashi 9, Najin Hayashi 17, Kurama Hayashi 16, children of Yuki Hayashi 36. It was a happy occasion, and it made them miss Kyuubi even more. As Kyuubi listened to Naruto describe everything that happened in his absence, Kyuubi had no idea what to say. Finally he settled on, "Why did you pick Kurama?" Naruto furrowed his brows in an adorably confused manner, "You don't like it?" Kyuubi shook his head, "No, it's why did you pick that name?" Kyuubi was fairly sure that none of them knew that Kurama was the name that Sage had bestowed him with. A name he hasn't used ever since he became Kyuubi. Not even Yuki, who had known him for almost 3 centuries, knew his real name. What were the chances that Naruto just happened to pick his real name out of all the names out there? Naruto shrugged, "It felt right, I don't know why, but it felt right, whereas no other name seemed to fit. If you don't like it, we can have it changed." "No," Kyuubi said, "no, I like it, it's my name. Of course from now on it's your." "No, I mean that it is my real name, the one my father, the sage, had given to me. I don't know how you even picked that name out of every other one out there." Kurama chuckled. Truly Naruto was full of surprises. "From now on call me Kurama." Kyuubi was a title that I don't hold anymore. Everyone nodded, still surprised by the revelation of Kyuubi's actual name being Kurama. At night when Yuki helped Kurama to bed as he was still struggling to control his body, Kurama talked, "Thank you for taking care of them." Yuki smiled, "It wasn't just me taking care of them, Kurama, they were taking care of me too. I have never felt this alive since Masamune left me." Kurama doesn't ask who Masamune is since from the wistful longing look on her face, it is obvious that this Masamune is the one that made Yuki change. Kurama silently observed her. She looked different, happier and more at peace with herself. "Should I start calling you mother?" Kurama asked only half jokingly. Yuki smirks, "Only if you want to, we'll just ignore the fact that you are old enough to be my great-great-great-grandfather." Kurama just rolled his eyes, causing her to laugh. "I am glad you're awake, Kurama. We all missed you so much it hurt physically." Naruto was a mess. Kurama nods and smiles, "I am glad I am awake too, I already missed 3 years of the kid's life I don't want to miss anymore." Yuki smiles and leaves the room. "Good night, baby." Kurama rolls his eyes, "Good night, mother, what, not going to tuck me in and sing me a lullaby?" Yuki's soft laughter echoed through the hallway, causing Kurama to smile. Being human is difficult. It's terrifying how fragile I am, how weak this makes me, but in the end I can only think that it is worth it. Ever since Kurama woke up, life was much more happier for all of them. Kurama had to learn to control his body and train himself to become stronger. Strength was important because even if Kurama had accepted his mortality, the fragility of human life was a frightening concept to the demon who used to be immortal. Yuki and Najin helped as much as they could. It helped that Kurama still had vague memories left from his demonic past that helped him develop some new skills. That was another thing because being human meant that along with his strength and immortality, he also had to sacrifice a lot of his knowledge because human brain wasn't meant to deal with thousands of years worth of knowledge. It made Kurama feel even more vulnerable and increased his obsession with becoming strong. It was Naruto's presence that had kept him from going over the deep end. Hunger for power always led to a disaster. 2 weeks had passed and it was the day of Naruto's 10th birthday, as well the day he officially became a doctor. There was no grand parties, but the 4 of them had a special dinner planned for the night. As far as they were concerned, that was all they needed to celebrate. Dr. Aya was also invited. Things were going well for the little family. Kurama, Najin and Yuki gave Naruto their gifts in private. Kurama had asked Yuki to get a set of daggers specially made from Kyuubi's demon claw that Yuki had. That was his gift for Naruto. He couldn't help Naruto learn how to use them as he himself didn't know, but Yuki agreed to teach him. Najin's gift was finalization of their bond, which gave Naruto the ability to shapeshift. It was not as powerful as Najin's, since Naruto could only shift to one animal form and back. They had yet to figure out what Naruto's animal form was. Yuki's gift surprisingly was a dark bloodline, one which she had searched high and low for. The bloodline that came from the blood of the Sephirim, called Divine Touch. The Sephirim were a group of demons that had an uncanny ability to heal others as well as themselves and made them immune to all poisons, except the ones made from their own blood. Naruto could now heal people in a way that no other healer could. This all made Naruto very happy, and that in turn made the others happy. Namika's Uzumaki household. As usual, there was a birthday party at the house for the twins. Everyone laughed, everyone smiled and wished the 2 children and handed over their gifts. Kushina watched her children play around with the other clan children. Minato was conversing with some of the other clan heads. Sasuke stood at the corner of the room with a scowl that discouraged the other children from approaching him. Kushina felt a pang of sadness every time she looked at the boy. He reminded her a lot of her best friend Mikoto. Gentle sweet Mikoto, who had been killed along with the rest of her clan by her daughter Hibara, Uchiha Itachi's twin sister. Only Sasuke had survived that horrible night. Ever since the Uchiha massacre, Sasuke lived with them. Kushina had been a great friend of Mikoto's and had been named as Sasuke's godmother. So when everyone was gone, she was the only one left for him. Sasuke used to be a bright child before the massacre, afterwards he was bitter and angry at the world and had sworn revenge against his sister. Kushina sighed. She turned around to look at her children when she noted the Inuzuka family. Tsuma Inuzuka and Kushina used to be good friends until 3 years ago. The Inuzuka were all about loyalty and family, to them the fact that Kushina and Minato had disowned a child simply because he was a troublemaker was a very big crime. None of them spoke against the Hokage family, but it was very visible in their eyes what they thought of them. Kushina couldn't blame them. If she was in their place she would be feeling the same simply because they didn't know the whole facts. They didn't know about the curse, they didn't know about Naruto's fate and the danger that came with it. And they didn't know that the Sword of Iron, the cursed sword that would lead Naruto to darkness and madness, rested in a secure facility in the bowels of the Hokage mountain. 3 years ago when the Namikaze family still had 3 children, Jiraiya had arrived with news of the sword's location and its secret. They wasted no time in retrieving the sword and locking it away. If Naruto never comes in contact with the sword, the boy would have a chance at a normal life. But that life would have to be away from Konoha. The sword and wielder in the same place was just asking for trouble. And if Naruto left a lot of problems would be solved. Kushina nor Minato hated their third child because he was just a victim of his fate. But if it comes down to it, both of them were more than willing to take him out. Kushina and Minato could only hope that such a time never comes. Namikaze Uzumaki household, a month after the triplets' 10th birthday began. Menma looks up and growls at his father, "I can't." Minato looks at Menma with such a disappointed frown that something inside Menma withers. "Son, you have made no progress in the." "Stop. I don't want to hear it right now. So just stop." Minato is glaring at him now and Menma glares back. Kushina who was suddenly there began scolding the boy, "Menma, I know you are frustrated, but that is not an attitude we expect from you." Menma scoffs, "Frustrated? You call this frustrated?" Menma wants to scream and rant, he is tired of holding back, so he does just that. "It's been 3 years, and I still can't go past 2 tails without going on a rampage. Nothing you say is helping me. This whole training you are putting me through is useless. I have been listening to you and working my very best ever since I can remember, and the result is always a bloody failure. You have no idea how angry I am." "Menma. No, don't you dare yell at me." Minato tries to intervene before this all goes too out of control. "Menma, you need to calm down. Right now." Menma turns his attention on to his father, "Or what?" "I think, Menma, that you need to get a better attitude," Jiraiya comments idly from where he is watching. The old hermit is visited on occasion to help the Kage and wife in training their 2 children, but as far as he can see everything was falling apart, including their family. Jiraiya notices how Menma's face hardens when he hears Jiraiya's comment. There is a bitter look on the kid's face. "The better attitude, huh? Or what, you're going to disown me too?" The comment takes both Minato and Kushina by surprise, but not Jiraiya. Because Jiraiya knows that this has been coming since 3 years ago. "Of course not," Kushina rushes to disagree and Menma just scoffs. "I don't want to train anymore. We can continue this later." Without listening to what his parents have to say, Menma walks away. Minato sighs at his son's attitude. Menma gets worse every year after Naruto had been disowned. Now 3 years after Naruto was disowned his family was falling apart. "Minato, how are we supposed to deal with this?" Minato looks at Kushina and sighs, "I honestly don't know." Looking to the side he sees Mito standing near the edge of the training field. She fidgets when he looks at her and runs after her brother. Menma stops running when he thinks he is alone, but he is surprised by a voice from behind him. "Why are you angry?" Menma looks at the girl standing behind the tree. Menma had run to the park after he left the training field. He wasn't in a mood to play and just wanted to be left alone, so he had moved to a quieter abandoned part of the park. Menma looks at the girl suspiciously. "Who are you?" The girl fidgets nervously. "My name is Akumu." Menma raises an eyebrow at her. "Nightmare? Who names their kid that?" The girl glares at him then. "Well, I can ask them if I ever meet them." Menma frowns at that. The girl turns back without another word and runs into the more wooded area of the park. Menma feels the smallest amount of guilt, but he had no plan on apologizing, but still. He ran after the girl after a moment of thinking. He couldn't find her even after searching for a while. The deeper he went into the woods the darker it was getting, and he was about to head back when he heard something. Thanks to the demonic chakra he had much higher senses, higher than an Inuzuka, and that's saying something. After concentrating for some more time he hears it again. It sounds like an angry growl. There is a clearing ahead of where he is standing, and he can see the flash of someone moving in the clearing. Cautiously he moves towards the clearing and enters it. He gapes when he sees the clearing. The place is beautiful. A small pond off to the side with water lilies floating along the surface of it and many other exotic flowers and plants growing on the edges. It looks like a part of heaven. In all his life Menma has never known that a place like this existed in Konoha. "What are you doing here?" Menma looks to the side when he hears the panicked question. It's the girl from earlier, the one he was running after. He feels really foolish for not paying more attention to his surroundings. "I followed you," he blurts out. The girl, Akumu, looks a little panicked at that. "You can't be here. This is my place." Menma raises an eyebrow at that. "Your place?" This is the Konoha Forest Akumu, this belongs to nobody. The girl looks really scared then. But, he says, I won't tell anyone else about this place if you really don't want me to. I really don't, the girl snaps. Menma smirks, so then you won't mind if I spend some time here would you? Who am I kidding, you really would, but then again I really don't care. Oh, if looks could kill, Menma would be 6 feet under by now. You're an arrogant bastard. Menma scoffs at that, well you are a nobody with a freakish name. Akumu's glare hardens and she looks away. Menma spares the girl one more glance before moving towards the pond. It's at that moment that Akumu chooses to strike. She moves like a viper and attempts to strike at his back. But Menma wasn't trained by a Kage and 2S class shinobi for no reason, he grabbed her by her outstretched hand and flips her into the pond without even turning to look at her. Menma is grinning smugly when Akumu comes up spluttering and spitting out water with a water lily caught in her long brown hair. Menma bursts out laughing at the sight. I'll kill you. She screeched. I'm waiting. At the end of the day both of them are wet and dirty and bruised. Akumu more than Menma. After a while of Menma kicking her ass, Akumu had started playing dirty. She still only got a few hits in. That's the most fun I've had in a while, Menma says, a long while. Akumu grunts, fun for you maybe. Menma gives her an unimpressed look into Akumu caves because somewhere along the way she had let go of the anger and did really enjoy it. Maybe it was a little fun, she says reluctantly and Menma grins. Let's do this again. What, you kicking my ass? No thanks. Menma notes the bitterness in her voice when she says that. He thinks about it for a moment before saying, I'll teach you how to fight. To fight like a shinobi. Akumu sits up startled, what? I said I'll teach you. Did I really hit your head that hard? Menma asks mockingly. Asshole, she calls him, but there is tentative hope in the way she looks at him and Menma knows that he is doing the right thing. So? He asks. Fine. Menma smiles at that, even when she tries Akumu can't hide the joy in her words. I thought you would be more like him, Akumu trails off wistfully when Menma is not looking at her. He turns to her with a confused look, like who? She hesitates slightly before answering him, Naruto. Menma sits up suddenly, you know him. She too sits up with a sad expression, not really. Didn't get a chance to do that before he went away, I know he is your brother and that he got disowned. Menma grits his teeth and stays silent. He used to come and play with the kids at the orphanage. They all adored him. He was so nice. She stumbles a bit in her words, I used to have this huge crush on him. Used to? Menma asks. She blushes, okay maybe I still do have a slight crush on him. Oh, Menma says and stays silent for some time. I came to talk to you, to ask if you knew anything about him, she admits. Menma appreciates her honesty, but more than that he feels angry at her. I honestly didn't expect anything but this was fun. You are much nicer than I thought. Still an asshole though, she smirks, I don't want to start any friendship on wrong notes, that's why I am telling you all this. If we are to be friends, then we should start on a clean slate. Menma looks at her startled before his usual cocky expression comes back, who says I want to be friends with you? She raises an eyebrow condescendingly, you don't? Menma narrows his eyes at her, well I don't. She snorts, oh man, you're such a bad liar, you do. No, I don't. Yes you do. No, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes. Menma only realizes his mistake after he said it. Ha! Akumu crows with a delighted laugh. Her laughter is contagious and Menma was soon laughing along with her. Hey, she says after their laughter settles, I want to be your friend because I like you. This has nothing to do with my crush on your brother. Some nod in his chest loosens when he hears that. I don't know anything about him, he says softly. She hums, he's probably out there somewhere becoming a doctor as he wanted. Maybe he has a lot of new friends there. Maybe he is happy, he deserves to be happy. There is a wistful tone in her voice. Menma's throat closes up and he just nods instead of using his words. He was the one responsible for Naruto's leaving. Maybe if he hadn't been such a horrible human being, Naruto and Akumu would have been great friends by now. There was no doubt that Naruto would be a much better friend than Menma could ever be, but there was something about Akumu that made him want to protect her. The girl looked like she needed someone in her corner, a friend, and Menma needed one too. He can help this girl and ease the guilt at having gotten his brother kicked out. Because for some reason, Menma really likes this strange girl and she reminds him of Naruto in some strange way. By the way, I don't like your name. Yeah? Neither do I, Akumu snaps. Menma rolls his eyes, well then change it. Change it? She asks dumbfounded like it's the first time she even thought about it. Then after a moment of silence she admits, the name I know it's not great and I don't really like it either, but it's the only thing I own. I know you don't understand, but I don't want to get rid of it. She's right, Menma doesn't get it, but he says, alright then keep the name. But I am calling you Aki from now on. Aki red, she whispers fingering a strand of red hair. It's not that her whole hair is red. Her hair is predominantly brown, but under the right shade of light it looks red. And there are a few red strands mixed in as well. Menma feels satisfied when she ducks her head with a smile. Maybe this day wasn't a complete waste after all. Mito was waiting for him when he got back home. His parents were nowhere to be seen, nor was Jiraiya. He sighed and moved to his room, ignoring her. She followed him like he knew she would. "Where were you?" Mito asked softly. She changed a lot in 3 years. She was more soft-spoken these days, and Menma was the only one who understood that her calming down, as his parents had called it, was not all that good. She was nervous almost all the time these days. "At the park," Menma replied with a sigh. Mito looked at him sharply. "Are you lying to me?" "What? I went looking for you. You weren't at the park." Menma looked at Mito, who was staring at him with her pursed lips and narrowed gaze. He suddenly realized that he didn't want her to know about Akumu. "I went with a friend after a while." He shrugged. "Which friend?" Mito asked pointedly. Menma suppressed the urge to growl. "Do I have to tell you everything?" Mito looked away in silence. Menma sighed when he saw her face. Ever since Naruto's banishment, she was very clingy to him. He didn't know why that was. Maybe a therapist could help more with Mito. He wondered what was going on in her mind. It couldn't be all that healthy. Sometimes he thought that both of them needed to spend time with Yamanaka. "You fought with mom and dad." Menma looks at her when she says that. "I was a bit frustrated." He tries to justify even though he feels like he doesn't need to. "What do you think they are going to do?" Her question doesn't come as a surprise. Mito was always worried about their parents' reaction. "Probably nothing. Might increase the training a bit." Mito bites her lips in worry. "What if they?" Menma knows exactly what she is going to say. "They are not going to disown us just because I shouted a little." Mito. That was what always plagued her thoughts. That and Naruto. Menma was more than ready to tell his parents the truth about those pranks. It took some time for him to come to terms with the fact that it was indeed their fault that Naruto was disowned. He had hoped that if they told them the truth, Naruto might be brought back home. He didn't think that a kid his age could survive without a family. The thing that stopped him was Mito. As much as she acted like a spoiled princess, she did love Naruto. Unlike Menma, who had never spent time getting to know the younger blonde, Mito and Naruto were inseparable for the first 5 years of their life. Menma still didn't understand why she acted the way she did to Naruto. After he was gone, Mito was frantic. She wanted him back just as much. She feared what would happen to her if her parents found out the truth. She constantly feared that her parents would find out the truth one day and would disown her like they did Naruto. "Mito!" Menma called sharply when he saw that Mito was drifting again. She does this all the time, zone out and gets engrossed in her own thoughts. "Do you think he's alright?" she asks quietly. Mito was looking at him beseechingly, and Menma knew that she didn't want the truth, just comfort. Comfort that her actions hadn't killed their other sibling. Menma finds himself saying the exact words that Aki had told him. He's probably out there somewhere becoming a doctor as he wanted. Maybe he has a lot of new friends there. Maybe he is happy. He deserves to be happy. Mito nods at that. He knows that she doesn't believe him. Always think that the worst had befallen their brother. "You should go to sleep," Menma says, noting how tired she looked. She nods but doesn't move other than to shuffle her feet nervously. Menma sighs and nods. Mito gives him a shy smile before climbing into his bed instead of going to her room. Menma isn't tired, not enough to sleep, but he changes his clothes and climbs into bed after his sister. Sometimes when he thinks about Naruto, he feels like a shitty brother in person, but other times like this, when he is holding Mito close and letting her sleep in his arms, he feels that he could be a better brother if he had another chance with Naruto. Mito curls into his warmth and is drifting off to sleep. "I love you, brother." Menma smiles at that. "Love you too, sis." Menma closes his eyes and dozes, trusting their mother to wake them up when dinner was ready. It became a habit for Menma to go to the park after training every day. Menma and Aki would meet in their secret clearing, and Menma would teach her how to fight, as he promised. He often asked her why she didn't join the academy, and she replied that not all of them were that lucky. Menma didn't know what she meant by that, and she didn't elaborate any further. They would talk about Naruto sometimes. Where he could be right now and what he could be doing and all that. "Why did you do it?" she asks him that evening. Menma looks at her confused. "Do what?" "The pranks. Why did you blame him for it?" She's looking at him with that intense gaze of hers. Her brown eyes looking almost golden in the fading sunlight. Menma is startled and doesn't know how to answer her. Did she know about the pranks? How did she know? He must have asked that out loud because she starts speaking. "Everyone at the orphanage knew. Because Naruto was there most of the time. You accused him of something." Menma pales at that and swallows nervously. "Are you angry?" She looks at him confused. "Why would I be? Naruto always forgave you so easily. He said he understood why you did it." Menma looked down shamefully. "I just want to know too. Why did you do it?" "We, Mito and I, always thought that nobody knew." There is a self-deprecating smile on Menma's face. "I was just high on the feeling that we had the capacity to fool 2 Kage-level shinobi, so we did it again and again, until it became a habit." We blamed him for every prank and every mistake we did. We even got the other kids to side with us. We thought that we outsmarted mom and dad, and it was fun because they were supposed to be smart and strong, and we outsmarted them," Menma says ruefully. Aki was looking at him with a peculiar expression like she wanted to say something, but instead she kept silent, allowing him to speak. "So we did it again and again. Then the other kids started doing it too, and we didn't find anything wrong with it because it was something we did, and Naruto kind of got used to taking the blame. I guess everyone thought that he was the problem child, and we didn't think much of it. It wasn't such an important fact, but then they disowned him. We didn't want that to happen to him. I mean, we didn't like him all that much because we never got close to him, but he was still our brother. I don't know." Menma looks frustrated. "I didn't know that the way I was treating him was bad. I didn't know that it was wrong to treat our brother like that because mom and dad never told me it was wrong, and I thought they would correct me if I was wrong. I trusted them." Menma fell silent, but since he started speaking, he wanted to say everything. He trusted Aki enough to do that. "I didn't hate Naruto. I never hated him even though I acted as I did. He was always just a background member of our family, and I got used to treating him as something insignificant." A part of me. He swallowed heavily because admitting this was difficult, but Aki looked at him with kind, warm eyes, and he found the strength to speak. "A part of me was always jealous of him, I think." "Jealous of him?" Aki asked, surprised. Menma nodded. "Yeah, I still am. I have always been the hero of Konoha. In truth, I am the Jinchuriki of Konoha, the weapon. And my father was the Hokage. I don't know what destiny my parents think they're preparing me for, but I understood even back then that my fate had already been decided. There is only one future for me, and that is to fight for this village." Naruto wasn't like that. At first that included Mito as well. Both of them had a freedom of choice that I did not. At first, it was fine because I was too caught up in the fame and the praises of the people. But slowly I understood that I had restrictions that neither of them did. And I got jealous. So I ended up tormenting them. Then Mito awakened her bloodline, and he got the same treatment I did. I don't know why she treated Naruto the way she did, especially when she and he were that close before, but maybe she just learned it from me. It's not like my parents ever took the time to correct me on my behavior. They stayed silent for some time before Aki asks him, "Do you understand now that what you did was wrong?" Menma nods. "Yes, I do." Mito took it very hard. His banishment, I think she didn't know how to deal with it. She still doesn't. It was worse for her since she used to be close to him at a time, but we are always so afraid. Afraid that if they find out our parents might do the same to us. Not to me, they couldn't banish me because I am the Jinchuriki, but Mito, she always worries. The guilt, the fear, it's not good for her. Aki is looking at him with something akin to pity in her eyes, and Menma looks away from her. He hears her take a deep breath and he wonders what she was going to say. Was she going to say that she pitied him, that he was pathetic? But instead what she said was something else. "Menma, I was telling the truth when I told you that you are a bad liar." Menma looks at her a little confused. "What does that do you think I am lying?" Aki shakes her head. "No Menma, I meant that." "What?" he asks, seeing her perplexed expression. "Tell me." She looks regretful and nervous as she speaks, and it makes Menma nervous too. "Do you really think that you and your sister, barely 7 at that time with no training in sabotage or espionage, managed to fool 2 S-class shinobi who survived the Great Shinobi Wars?" Menma takes a moment to take in her question, then he replies perplexed, They couldn't have known the truth, Aki. Why would they treat Naruto like that if they did?" As much as he wants to say that she's wrong, something in him stops him. "Look," Aki says with a hardened expression, "I am really sorry for saying this, but Menma, your parents are not ordinary civilians. One of them is the Hokage." "Menma, the Hokage," she emphasizes, "think and tell me. Do you really believe that your pranks and lies fooled them?" Menma thinks, he thinks and his thoughts all circle back to the instances his parents had never once questioned Menma and Mito when they lied about Naruto. His parents who could always tell he was lying when he said that he wasn't hurt or tired or that he didn't eat the cookies. His parents who could always tell when Mito hated the new girl or when she lied about not needing help. His parents didn't give a second thought when they lied about Naruto. Something in him shattered as all the moments when Kushina and Minato were too eager to isolate Naruto, to blame him, to keep him away came to his mind. It couldn't be, they wouldn't. "I have to go." Menma staggered to his feet. "Menma." He didn't wait to listen to what she had to say. Menma ran. "Naruto." Naruto opens his eyes groggily when he heard someone calling his name. "Naruto." His eyes are wide open as he takes a good look at his surroundings. He is in a forest. Huge trees all around him blocking any and all light. He stands up quickly and looks around for anyone, but he is alone as far as he can see, which is not much. "Naruto." There it is again, that voice. Naruto swallows nervously before asking, "Who are you?" "You know me, Naruto." The voice sounds like it's coming from behind him, but there's no one there when he turns to look. "I don't think so," Naruto says, glancing around. "Why did you bring me here?" The wind rustles and the sound of fluttering feathers reach his ears. It unsettled something deep inside him. Suddenly he gasps and clutches at his back. He almost falls down when his back hurts like someone is dragging a knife across his back in some pattern. But there is no one behind him, no weapon carving into his back as he feels. Yet his hands come back stained red from the blood that seeped through the clothes on his back. The cuts on his skin sting horribly, but his clothes remain intact. The pain sharpens and he falls down onto his knees with a scream. There are 1,000 invisible knives carving into his back. It isn't the pain that makes Naruto tremble though, it's the fact that he knows the pattern being traced into his back. The mark of Aion. The symbol of the curse placed upon him. What is going on? Naruto asks painfully scared. It's getting closer Naruto. What is getting closer? The time for you to wield me. Naruto sits up in his bed with a silent scream. He is drenched in sweat and shaking like a leaf, his back hurts, but there is no blood staining his bed as he had expected. It was all a dream. No, it wasn't just a dream. Naruto knew that as instinctively as he knew that something had changed. But the trembling hand he called upon his chakra and created a shadow clone. Quickly discarding his t-shirt he let the clone take a look at his back where the mark remains. The clone popped out of existence and the blood drained from Naruto's face as he received the memories of the clone. Kurama. Kurama raises his head to look at Naruto when the boy calls him. There is something off about Naruto's tone, and when Kurama sees Naruto he is immediately worried. Naruto is standing at the doorway, his clothes in disarray and eyes red-rimmed, clutching at his shoulder in obvious pain. Naru. Kurama rushes to the boy frantically just in time to catch Naruto as he crumbles to the floor. Kurama cradles the young boy close and is going out of his mind with worry when Naruto starts sobbing. Kurama has never seen the boy look so obviously vulnerable despite being only 10 years old. The boy looks like someone had ripped out his heart, wailing uncontrollably. Naru, what's wrong? What hurts? Kurama asks frantically. Noting how the boy flinches when Kurama's hand comes in contact with his back, Kurama carefully moves the boy to the couch and lays him on his side. It hurts Kurama, it hurts so much. The way Naruto's voice cracks with each word reminds Kurama just how young the boy is. Kurama knows that the source of pain is the boy's back, so he carefully tries to look all the while soothing the boy with soft words of comfort. It's alright Naru, it's alright. Kurama had never comforted a crying human before, but with Naruto, it comes almost naturally. By the time Naruto's cries have faded to soft whimpers, Kurama sees Najin and Yuki enter the room both worried. They look at Naruto horrified at his plight. What happened Kurama? Yuki asks softly. I don't know, but I am going to find out. Saying that Kurama gently lifts the back of Naruto's shirt. Najin who's standing behind him lets out a sharp gasp. Kurama only barely manages to hold on to his curse. Beside him Yuki is watching with a horrified look. They had all seen the mark of Aion in Naruto's back before, but it was vastly different now. What used to be blurred vague lines were now sharp black lines that depicted the cloaked skeletal figure holding the sword of Aion. Two tattered wings extended from the cloaked figure, feathers twisted and lost and horrible looking, but each feather was now defined in sharp black lines that left no doubt about what they were. None of them had any idea what to do. The silence was broken by Naruto's soft words. Am I going to go crazy Kurama? Kurama held Naruto close. It's a curse Naruto, and trust me, all curses can be broken. That's all Kurama said as Yuki and Najin joined in hugging Naruto. They all stay like that. Naruto falls into a fitful sleep. Once they are sure that Naruto is asleep, Najin asks softly, what does this mean? Yuki has no answer to that question, neither does Kurama. I am not sure, Kurama says, I think I used to know but now. Yuki understands Kurama's frustration. The knowledge lost when he became human was a lot. I think it's the sword. It's just a theory, but maybe the sword is calling for its wielder, Yuki says thoughtfully. But why now? Why did the mark become clear like that? Najin asks worriedly about what this means for Naruto. All of them are worried. I can try to summon something that can tell us more, Yuki suggests. I don't think we have many options. We have to find out what this means for Naruto. I know the location of some demonic scrolls still, maybe I can try and collect them to take a look. Najin nods, I'll get the scrolls if you can share the location with me. Whatever is happening, we need to be prepared. None of them moves from their position around Naruto and surrounds him in their warmth and tries to sleep. Minato, Kushina and Jiraiya are sitting in the office discussing something when Menma storms into the room. The doors are opened with such force that it strikes the wall and bounces back twice. Menma. Kushina yells angrily, but then it turns to panic when she sees the red creeping into his eyes and his wild appearance. Menma, you need to calm down, Minato says softly. Did you know? The question confuses them. Know what, Menma? Kushina asks. Menma, whatever it is, we can talk about it after you have calmed down, Jiraiya says, because agitating the boy more won't help with anything. Menma turns his gaze to Jiraiya. No. We're talking about this right now. Then talk, Jiraiya says calmly, whatever it is you want to talk about. Menma is already looking back at Minato and Kushina, the anger in his eyes so potent that they flinch back. Did you know the truth about the pranks? Jiraiya is confused by the question, what pranks? Out of the corner of his eyes he sees realization dawn on Minato's face followed by apprehension. Menma sees it too. You knew, didn't you? You knew. He screams. Men, shut up. Menma shouts when Kushina tries to speak. You knew the truth and you disowned the only decent person in this twisted family for no reason. Jiraiya sees when Kushina understands the gravity of the situation. He sees when she too comes to the same conclusion as Minato, whatever that is. Jiraiya is more than a little confused. Menma, you have to understand that it was Naruto's choice to leave. Jiraiya tries to reason with the boy, even though he is not sure about what is happening. The only thing he is sure about is that if Menma gets any more angry, they would have to subdue him. Menma growled, no. It's what we all pushed him into. Mito and I were horrible siblings and we pushed him away. Taunted and treated him like trash, and these two, Menma gestures at Minato and Kushina, they let it happen because that was convenient. Convenient, Jiraiya mumbles and understands that this all is much worse than he expected. You don't know what you are talking about, Minato says with a blank face. Menma sneers, oh I know. I know, father. I know you wanted him away from us. You both did. You didn't actively try to keep him from us, no, but when I began the rift you didn't try to fix it, instead you encouraged it. You encouraged Mito and me to keep ostracizing him because you wanted him gone. Menma, you don't understand, Kushina says with a weary look. Then make me understand why you did it. Why you acted like you knew nothing when you knew that every time we accused him of something that it wasn't him but us. You knew and you did nothing but take our sides and bolster our pitiful egos because you wanted that rift between me and my brother. Kushina and Minato have nothing to say to that. They both look on wearily as red creeps into Menma's eyes and the temperature of the room increased fractionally as the Kyuubi's chakra made itself known. Jiraiya was worried and he knew that they needed to try and calm Menma down before they would have to resort to more drastic measures. Menma, please try to calm down. From behind him, Menma hears a sharp gasp and sees Mito standing there with a scared and betrayed look on her face. The sight somehow lets the Kyuubi's chakra recede, but Menma doesn't appear any less angry. Menma sees Jiraiya look at them. What are you talking about, Menma? So you didn't know? Menma asks Jiraiya, who still looks confused. Minato and Kushina are silent for a moment, then Kushina surges forward and grabs a hold of Menma's hand and pulls him along. That's enough. I need to speak with you privately before you come to any more stupid assumptions from wherever you heard that nonsense. Kushina is pulling a protesting Menma along when someone else grips her wrist, stopping her. Kushina looks back and sees that it is Jiraiya holding her. Let him speak. I want to know what his stupid assumptions are, Jiraiya says firmly, and Kushina looks at Minato, who nods. Kushina lets go of Menma and Menma glares at her while rubbing his wrist. Kushina looks like she wants to apologize seeing the bruise forming on his wrist, but she stays silent. Menma looks at his father and mother before turning to Jiraiya and Mito. He gives Mito an apologetic look before speaking to Jiraiya. We always thought that nobody knew. There is a self-deprecating smile on Menma's face. I was just high on the feeling that we could fool 2 cage-level shinobi, so we did it again and again until it becomes a habit. Did what, Menma? Jiraiya asks with trepidation. Pranks, Mito says near silently. Jiraiya's eyes widen when he gets what the kids are saying. We blamed him for every prank and every mistake we did. We thought that we outsmarted mom and dad and it was fun because they were supposed to be smart and strong, and we outsmarted them, Menma says ruefully. Jiraiya could understand where that feeling led. When Menma stops, Mito starts speaking. She speaks softly like it's a confession that had been festering inside her. So we did it again and again. Then the other kids started doing it too, and we didn't stop it because it was something we did, and Naruto got used to taking the blame. It wasn't such an important fact, but then they disowned him. Mito stops speaking, and the tears that were held at bay until then start spilling, and she starts sobbing. Menma holds her hand and comforts his sister. We didn't want that to happen to him. I mean, we didn't like him all that much because we never got close to him, but he was still our brother. I don't know, Menma looks frustrated. I didn't know that the way I was treating him was bad. I didn't know that it was wrong to treat our brother like that because he points accusing at his parents, never told me it was wrong, and I thought they would correct me if I was wrong. I trusted them and they manipulated us. Menma, we did not manipulate you, Kushina says softly. Menma scoffs, really? Because do you know what Sasuke told me the other day? What did he say? Jiraiya asks. He told me how much of a shitty brother I was to Naruto. It was the first time he ever spoke about his family, and that was to tell me how Aunt Mikoto always thought mom was doing a bad job at disciplining us. He told me how Itachi was to him, he told me how I was supposed to be to Naruto. My first thought was, why you never told me I was wrong? I thought Sasuke was wrong. Then he mentions that his parents knew. There was only one time Sasuke played a prank with us, and that time too we blamed Naruto. You punished him as usual. Do you know what Aunt Mikoto and Uncle Fugaku did? They told Sasuke that he wasn't old enough to fool them. Mikoto talked to you, didn't she? She came to talk to you about how it was Sasuke's fault and you said you understood. You said that you knew. Sasuke was there, he wanted to apologize to Naruto, and you convinced him that Naruto understood that it was a prank and was playing along. You said all that in front of him, but Naruto still got punished. You never told him or us. Minato is staring at Menma with a blank face, but Kushina looked worried. Jiraiya however had a grim look on his face. Menma didn't mention how it was Aki who prompted him to question Sasuke. Somehow he didn't think that his parents would take too kindly to that. The hand in his palm was shaking, and Menma looked at Mito who kept her face down, not letting anyone see what she was feeling. I wanted to know if it was a one-off thing, so I went to my other friends, Menma sneered, and guess what? All their parents, at least the clan heads, knew and they said that you knew too. But you had them all convinced that you were dealing with it, that Naruto was never punished, and it was all just fun and games. Children playing pranks and trying to outsmart Shinobi. I always wondered how we managed to fool you, but as it turns out we were the fools. All of this and by the end of it our brother hated us. I have a feeling that that's exactly what you wanted. Jiraiya turns to Minato, is this true? Wait, you don't need to answer, I already know from the look on your face. I have to say Minato, this is far from what I expected from you, but I can't say I am surprised either. Jiraiya doesn't look or sound accusing, instead he sounds tired. Knowing that at least part of this mess was his fault. He couldn't blame his student either because despite it seeming like a bad choice, Jiraiya knew that Minato and Kushina didn't do this without thinking. It was a bad twist in all their fates. Menma sneered at them. He looked at Mito when he felt her tugging at his hand. From the expression on her face, she didn't want to spend another second in front of their parents. Good, because neither did Menma. Just as both of them turned to leave, Minato stopped them. Are you leaving already? Don't you want to hear our reasons, Menma? Don't you want to know why we did what we did? Menma paused. It was Mito who answered for him. Why should we? It's obvious, isn't it? Naruto had no special powers, no bloodline, no heroic duties, so you wanted him gone from your perfect family. All of them were surprised by the amount of venom in her words. Mito never was one to shout or talk like that. Kushina closed her eyes and held her tears at bay. How were they going to fix this mess? No, Minato chuckled mirthlessly, do you believe that? No, Mito. If Naruto wasn't special, we wouldn't have to do this. Kushina and Jiraiya looked at Minato with shock. It's time we told you guys the truth. In a casino in Lightning Country, Lady Tsunade, it's time to leave. Shizune tried for the 100th time that evening, but Tsunade seemed too involved in her card game to go just yet, even though she lost every round so far. One more round, Shizune, Tsunade said angrily. Shizune shook her head, that's what you said for the last 10 rounds. So no. No more rounds. The guys Tsunade was playing with were laughing at the blonde woman. Let her play, girl. One guy hollered. Yeah, let her. Another shouted. Shizune paid them no mind and proceeded to drag Tsunade out of the casino before the men realized that the money Tsunade gave were all lifted from their own pockets. One day, Lady Tsunade, one day this habit of yours is going to be the end of you. Shizune scolded. Tsunade was about to say something when someone crashed into her from behind. Tsunade stood her ground with all the grace of a kunoichi, but the person who crashed into her wasn't that lucky and ended up sprawled on the ground. What the hell are? Whatever Tsunade was about to say got stuck in her throat when she saw the heavily pregnant woman on the ground. Shizune was shocked for a moment before helping the woman up, are you okay? The woman had a pained look on her face and she was panting heavily. She quickly tore her hand out of Shizune's grasp and moved out of Tsunade's hold that was steadying her. I apologize, she muttered quickly before turning around and running into the crowd. Shizune stared after the woman worried. It was obvious that the woman was in pain and worried. I think she needs help, Shizune muttered. That's when she noticed Tsunade shaking beside her. Lady Tsunade. Shizune turned to look at her mentor. Tsunade was looking down at her hand which had been gripping the woman, the hand that was now covered in blood. Shizune was alarmed at the sight of it and quickly looked down. The ground where she had fallen was also blood-stained. Shizune looked around trying to spot the woman in the crowd, but she was long gone. As much as she wanted to look for the woman, she couldn't leave Tsunade in this state. Shizune closed her eyes and silently prayed for the woman before grabbing hold of Tsunade and taking her back to their hotel room. Naruto's dreams only get worse as days pass. It has been weeks since he got a good night's sleep and the only thing keeping him functional is the divine touch. He wants, desperately, to tell his family, but something holds him back. Naruto wasn't foolish. It wasn't just his inhibition and fear holding him back, it was something else. Something he found hard to explain. Every time he tried to talk to Kurama, Yuki or Najin about the dreams, the words would slip past his tongue and he would forget what he was trying to say. They would listen to his hastily made excuses and would not question him further, not because they didn't know something was going on, but for Naruto's sake. They were waiting for him to go to them, but each day he found it more and more difficult. At nights the dreams would come and every abandonment and fear would reflect at him and chip away at his resolve until he couldn't say anything to anyone. It feels like ages since he had a peaceful sleep uninterrupted by the dreams that felt so real that he cried every time. It wasn't always his fears reflected at him, there were other dreams, the strange ones that left the mark on his skin feel like burning. The sound ruffling feathers that got louder and louder with each dream. Naruto was scared. Truly, utterly terrified because he wasn't sure he wasn't going insane. After all, that's what he was cursed with. The curse of eternal madness. Naruto didn't want any part of this role he had been given to play, but fate was unfair. Naruto. Naruto was startled out of his trance by his mentor's call. Aya. When did you come in? Naruto asked startled. Aya took in the sight of the tired young man. He looked like he barely got any sleep in months. He was also skinnier. Aya was worried, so were the others. But while they decided to wait for Naruto to come to them, Aya wanted to tackle the bull by the horns. She would have done just that if Najin hadn't convinced her to give Naruto his space for now. She relented since Naruto's family knew him more than Aya did anyway. Kid, you look like a mess. His little office was also a mess. Not the usual organized chaos that was Naruto's room, but truly a mess. It was obvious that his care wasn't the only thing he was skipping out on. I am sorry. Aya sighed, kid, don't apologize, just take better care of yourself. You're more than just a student to me, okay? I'd hate to see you get hurt. Naruto looked anywhere but at Aya. He knew her worry was justified, but the thought of telling the truth made him panic like nothing else. I am fine, Aya, he says, and hopes he's not as unconvincing as he thinks he is. The last few days have been a little tough, that's all. Aya doesn't answer him, but looks at him with a piercing gaze, and Naruto has to look away. I am fine, he mumbles, not even sure who he's trying to convince anymore. After a moment of suffocating silence, Aya sighs. Alright kid, I'll believe you for now. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask me. Naruto nods with a smile. Well, A's eyes, I came here to say I'll be leaving tonight. You would have to run the clinic for the next few days all by your lonesome. Naruto was confused momentarily before he remembers that Aya's daughter, who lives with her husband in the neighboring village, fell ill 2 days ago. Aya would be going to attend to her daughter since her husband will be away for work for a few days. I almost forgot about that. Have a safe journey, Aya. I do hope that Akane gets well soon. Aya nods with a smile and ruffles his hair. Aye, Naruto. Take care of yourself in my clinic. Naruto smiles, you know I will. Later that evening, Naruto walks home heart and mind heavy with thought. He is so distracted that he almost misses it. A scream resonates in the air and Naruto's thoughts come to a screeching halt. That sounded like someone, a woman, in a lot of pain. He looks around trying to locate the source of the scream. A second scream has him sprinting full speed towards the direction of the voice. He has a fleeting thought that maybe this is a trick by some bandits or something, but his instincts told him to go there and they have never guided him wrong before. Besides, even if it's bandits, Naruto can take care of them just fine. What he finds though is not bandits, it's a woman, a pregnant woman. She's on the ground clutching at her large belly with her face twisted in agony. Tears trailed down her cheeks as she whimpered and whined at the pain. The most alarming fact was the pool of red quickly spreading beneath her. Naruto rushed to her, not pausing to think twice. The bleeding was extensive and Naruto knew right then that the chances of survival for both mother and child were slim. But as the woman's pained, feverish eyes meet his, he mumbles, it's going to be okay. He will make sure of that. After leaving Tsunade at their hotel room, Shizune goes looking for the pregnant woman. After some searching, she doesn't the woman. She is standing at the edge of town when she hears a scream. Shizune focuses on the sound and rushes as fast as she can to the source of the scream. She sees some others doing the same besides her. When she reaches the area where the screams originated from, she finds the woman and a young boy. There is so much blood that Shizune is almost sure that the woman has just lost her child. But she is a medic and as such she doesn't take any chances. Shizune rushes to help the woman. She hears someone shuffle behind her and finds that some of the locals have reached there as well. She hears them gasp at the sight of all the blood. Oh dear God, what happened to that poor woman? Look, she's pregnant. Poor child. Wait, isn't that Naruto with her? Oh yes, that's him. He can help her. Shizune doesn't pay much attention to the conversation behind her, but she hears it nonetheless. Shizune kneels next to the boy and the woman, and that's when she notices the white glow of the boy's palm held over the woman's stomach. A medic. Shizune looks at the boy, looks young enough to be a genin, but what healing technique is that? What exactly is he doing? Who are you? Shizune startles when the boy addresses her. He is still concentrating on healing the woman. My name is Shizune and I am a medic, that's all she says, and the boy heaves a sigh of relief when he hears her. Look, the fall has caused a pelvic fracture. There is excessive bleeding and a C-section is the only way to save either of them at the moment. How experienced are you with labor? Shizune is looking at the boy wide-eyed for a moment before pushing her thoughts to the back burner and focusing on the task at hand, unfortunately not much. Not enough experience to manage a C-section on her own because unlike other ailments and treatments, pregnancy and childbirth are delicate matters. The boy curses, well that makes two of us. You're a doctor? Shizune asks to confirm her doubts. The boy nods, we need to get her to the clinic, but there's no time. Shizune frowns, why? Is the clinic too far? The boy shakes his head, no that's not it. I think I forgot to mention that she is also poisoned. Shizune's eyes widened and she looks down at the woman who gets paler by the second. I am trying to flush out the poison before it harms the fetus, but each minute I spent on the poison, she is losing blood as well. Shizune looks at the white glow of his palm again, so that's what he's trying to do. Flush out the poison. Alright, you manage the poison and I will take care of the bleeding. Shizune sets about to do just that.